God, the
There
next
we go.
video I'm being suggested on YouTube is a fireside chat, an NPC build with Matt Immersion. I'm like, well, that's
Oh,
undeniably interesting, and probably, questionably, why am you watching this?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know if I want that.
Is it a new fireside chat? Because I know he's done those
Yeah, it's recent.
before. Oh, it's
Yeah,
new.
it was for the couple months back. They did the 826 LA charity streaming stuff, and one of the goals was for him to do another fireside chat. So they
Oh,
met
that's
the
awesome.
goal. And then Marisha did another honey heist on Friday because they met that charity goal as well.
I'm
Oh,
glad that
okay.
that was a goal. Marisha does a honey heist.
I gotta have more honey heist in my life. You know what though? That is the only thing I really wanted in my life was honey heisting. I think.
Oh, there
I
you go.
I mean, I just did a heist, and I was kind of sad that it did not involve honey. I thought that it
Uh,
would, and yet no go. They said
I don't
no.
think.
You're supposed
Oh
to be
yeah,
stealing money.
Oh, that's
you're
cool.
you're playing a bard, right?
I was playing a bard called Adisu.
Oh, yes, yes. I remember this character. I remember you
Yes.
going, how do I build D&D characters? And eventually Bard came up, and I remember the varied reaction, and everyone just went, "Listen, I don't care what people say. Play a Bard. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
It may not be useful, it may not be strong, it's going to be fun."
You know, the thing I realized, like, because I wasn't going to be able to build a character. I just knew I'm not proficient enough with D&D or really understand 5e enough to be able to build a character out of like if you showed me a character sheet for D&D, I would just look at you cross-eyed. I would not know what to
Like a
do with that.
child with a math problem.
Yes, like a child with a math problem. and that was what was so when they said they're pre-gen characters, I was like, sold, give me that. And when they were like, here's the classes, I started to think to myself, okay, wizards, I'm gonna have to deal with a lot of spells. Bard, oh, Bard, I can just bullshit my way through the whole game.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all I have to do. I don't have to have a plan. And so if you watch what I did on live stream for the Moment Heist, I hardly do any mechanical stuff at all through that entire game.
The way, though.
Uh,
That is the way.
yeah, I mean, all I really did was just talk my way through pretty much every scenario. Even when the rest of my crew ended up in an actual combat situation at the end, I was upstairs in the casino just trying to razzle dazzle my way through the crowds and just like just wow them with like fireworks and like just absolutely
Bravo.
yeah, that's what I was doing cuz I had this whole thing like, well, they're trying to pull off this major heist while everybody's here. I'm going to just try to cause as much chaos as I possibly could throughout the entire thing. And I kept thinking, like, how can I do that so that it's just utter chaos on the floor so no one's going to bother paying attention to them? And so, like, pulling the.
Needed. Helpful.
Yeah, it was. I thought that it was really helpful because I pulled, like, the owner up onto stage, tried to get him to sing a song with me. I think I was doing Cher's Greatest Hits at that point. Like, I had already done Bohemian Rhapsody. They wanted that. I gave the crowd what they wanted. I had this whole thing where I decided I had bought some fireworks ahead of time, like the little firecrackers at the general store. And I had some mortars that I had put outside so that there was this big display against everybody outside. They're watching that. They're having a good time. I have them pile back inside. I do a big encore performance and everything. And I had told these urchin kids that were working there that I'll give them these little firecrackers, right? And I told them, like, I think what how did Adisu sound? All right, kids. So the thing is, you're like performance artists, right? That's what you are. So what I want you to do, okay? I'm gonna give these to you, okay? And what you do is when you hear the code word, okay, Leroy Jenkins, I want you to drop those on the floor, and I want you to run around like chickens with your heads cut off. And so, so when I really needed to, when it got desperate, I shout I dedicate a song to Leroy Jenkins. I the kids drop the fireworks. There's utter chaos in the air. I think some things got set on fire, and it bought them a little more time, but they had angered a giant mechanical spider, and there's only so much I can do. I tried. But we succeeded. But I think that that's mostly because David Steele realized that we had already gone over our time and just wanted us to feel somewhat accomplished at the end, regardless of how stupid our plan was. So because literally the ending of that whole thing is like they all get out, they have the bags of holding, they killed everything that was downstairs. There's supposed to be reinforcements coming through. I'm trying to razzle dazzle them too in case they come through. One of our characters had done a disguised self as the owner, and he was still in that form. So they come back up the stairs, and they've got their bags of holding and everything. And what David basically said is, so the owner sees you still looking like him, has a heart attack and dies, and you get out the back. and it's like, woo, that was a close one.
Gotta love a good DM.
Yeah. So that was my first time playing 5e, and I think we're all the richer for it. I should also say, it is 9 o'clock, and for everybody who is joining us, if you are joining us, welcome to Delve Live, and I am Nathan Ainsworth, and Alex is experiencing a power outage, which is why he is not directly with us, but he may be showing up in the channel. But I am luckily joined today at the moment by DC Lasair and Drunk Paul.
Hello.
Howdy.
Yes. Welcome to everybody coming in. DC, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Got back from GenCon a few days ago. So.
Yes, GenCon.
Yeah.
What amazing things did you see at GenCon? I have to ask.
Well, a lot of time it was spent just hanging out with Maze Arcana people and running around with them and really having no idea what I was doing one moment to the next because I was just following along and kind of riding that wave. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's good.
I saw at the convention floor, I saw all the beautiful Wormwood gaming tables and talked to the creators of Weave, the game, if you've seen that before.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of familiar with that. Yeah. It's about it's about actual weaving, like you put things together. It's like
you scan cards with your phone, and that makes the story. And you roll dice. And...
that sounds more interesting than what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a quilting simulator for a second. Like
though, that has its merits.
Yeah, I've seen that game. So there are those games out there. Actually, the last time we went to BFIG, there were a couple kids that had a game called EB, and it was actually like a quilting game where you had to light up different lights by putting the right panels together and like sewing them together, and it was electronic underneath. It was kind of interesting, actually. I was really impressed by what they did, because it's kind of like this very old form idea of quilting and then this very new form idea of electronics, and they kind of put it together as a game. So there are quilting games out there. There's like at least 2. I think there's at least 2. But
there's all sorts.
Weave sounds more interesting, though. I'm going to give you that.
Yeah. And have you gone to the Level Up Dice website ever? They had a booth there, and they make dice with just gemstones and things like that. These great looking dice sets that you kind of want to spend the money on, but they are expensive.
I've seen those guys, and I've been very tempted.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're just beautiful.
Oh my!
I realized I couldn't get away with spending. It was like $200 something when I went to PAX. I couldn't get away with that. So I got her some more wood for her birthday. She doesn't quite know yet, but it'll be.
Oh my. I'm looking at this now. There's aluminum, heavy metal, precious stone. Actually, I'll put this into the thing so people can see it too. You can see where I'm getting my stuff from. But yeah, this is a bone artist alley. I'm scared to look at this.
I gotta look at bone. Because let's be honest, it's domesticated yak bone. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's only one type of bone. Got it.
Only one.
I'd be a little concerned.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Ooh, those jade. Okay, I need to close this now.
Yeah, exactly.
It is scary. I don't think I want to look too far into this. I was looking when we were at BFig, there was one game, and I know that it's come out. You can buy, but they had pieces. They had like dragon pieces, pawns that you used for the game, and they had this special edition they had made. The map, the actual game board was made in cloth, and then the pieces were made in gold and silver plate, and the whole thing was like $100 and something bucks.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was like, yeah, probably not, but I mean, I still, it
You can
sounds
get some really
nice.
cheap gold plating too, because like I have a set of 2d6s that are gold plated that I got for I think less than $3.
Mm-hmm.
They're just less than $3 dice that are gold plated, and I use for very specific things. Like this needs to kill him, or I'm rolling stats.
Yeah, there's that too. Oh man.
Have you heard of the Beetle and Grimm store Matthew Lillard's doing?
Matthew Lillard's still around? Sorry,
Yeah,
that's mean of
he's,
me. That's mean of me. I shouldn't have said that.
he plays D&D, and
He does.
uh,
Oh, I
he
didn't know
was
that.
at the Sirens of the Realm live show from GenCon, and he's made a company called Beetle and Grimm's, and they were sharing space with Wormwood, and for the new Dragon Heist setting, the Waterdeep Dragon Heist, he's making this huge deluxe $500 box set, and all the stuff you get with that was on display at Gen Con, and all these little minis and these tokens, and when your players find a scroll, you can hand them an actual scroll because they weathered paper and written on it.
Oh.
And monsters are these
My.
huge, like 8.5 by 11. One side's the monster, the other side is the stat for the monster.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
That's just a whole other level of interactivity. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Beautiful.
Yeah, now I'm like, I kind of want to look at that too, but at the
Post
same
that.
time, I don't know if it's probably better that you
That's
do
up in the
that.
Discord
Okay.
and in the
You've
Twitch.
doomed someone's fate. Who knows who, but someone.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's level up dice. I'll make sure to put that in there too. I am tempted to look at this. I'm tempted.
I mean, the miniature work is beautiful too. You get about 20 miniatures, and
Yeah, I will.
just all the little detail work going into it was awesome.
Yeah, I will. Damn it, I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm gonna have to look at it because now I really want to. Oh, you had already shared. It's okay. We'll double share it. That's all good. I feel like Matthew Lillard
I'm
would
excited
be.
that D&D minis are kind of becoming a profitable business.
Yeah, WizKids is doing a lot of great minis right now.
And there's Hero Forge if you want to make your own.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hero Forge has been making a pretty good go of it, actually.
Well, apparently they recently started going. You can download the SDL file, LD, the actual SolidWorks file is, but you can 3D print it yourself.
Ooh,
So I've got a buddy who's got one of those laser resin casting printing things that goes for high detail. I'm gonna send off the files to him, and he's gonna print us some minis.
Oh
We're
wow,
excited.
that is something else. That's great.
Digging.
That's good too. If you have like if I wanted to do one of my dreams of having like the Ninja Turtles role playing game, I'm figuring it's just basically everyone plays Turtles. You could just do D&D, and I'm just gonna
You
be a
Yeah.
turtle.
100% could.
Yeah.
Everyone's a monk.
Yes, that's exactly right. I had
Or
an
at least has a level or two of monk. And
yeah, exactly. I wanted to have a turtle, and his name was Rembrandt, and and he would just be some kind of monk.
Oh dear, now I want to play that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
it would be perfect if you had something like that because you could 3D print off like foot soldiers. You could just make a bunch of them if you had the right model, and then you could just fight a ton of them because they are sort of expendable. It's either that or if you did Power Rangers. I need those clay people. I can't remember what they were called, but so when you have the minions, that's a really good idea. Being able to just print them out yourself.
yeah, and it means you don't have to purchase, 16 $50 minions. You purchase
Yeah.
one, you print it yourself, and you already had the 3D printer lying around. You weren't using it, no matter how much you said you would.
It was
Right.
just sitting there.
You printed off more 3D printer parts, and then you stopped.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be fun. If I got a 3D printer, all I would do is just try to make all the parts for the 3D printer, so I could just replicate it part by part until I
knew
kept making
3
new
different
ones.
people who did that.
Really, that's
Built a 3D printer and then printed replacement parts.
Yeah.
Good.
I can use my 3D printer to make more 3D printers. It's fascinating. That's all I could do. It's printerception. Yeah, no, the minis that they're doing are beautiful too. I actually saw they had a Fallout. Funny because Paul and I were talking about Fallout a little earlier. But Modifius did a Fallout board game, and they had some miniatures for that one, and those looked real good too. For that, they're like Super Mutant Behemoth is pretty much to scale in terms of the other characters. And I can't remember what it had. I think it had like the fire hydrant in his hand with like the pole that goes underneath it, and it looked really awesome. That was
It's always
the.
such a clever melee weapon.
It really is. It really is. Now I have to remember what Swan had in Fallout 4. What did it?
This one for the Fallout minis? I just posted in the Discord.
Oh, yes.
Is it great?
That is what I was thinking. And I will actually. I am tempted to just open that up. I think my screen will change for a second, but it's okay.
Already purchasing miniatures for a campaign. So much. I'm really happy I have a new campaign, and I've already dedicated the money to make.
Yeah, it's I want to see if I can find the one
I
thing.
love opening the stream. I know I have the delay, but it's entertaining anyways.
Yeah, that's the I was right. Yeah, it's the ooh,
Oh yeah.
I could zoom in and out.
He's a big
yeah,
boy.
right there. Ooh, yeah. There you go. Fire hydrant. Dogs beware. That's why dog meat's so useful in these fights, because he sees the hydrant and he goes right for it. But I can't. Oh, 64. Yeah. Well, you know what? That was nice while it lasted. Okay, moving on. Moving on. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah. Modifius was at. They were doing a lot of Vampire the Masquerade because they just launched 5th edition, so they had a ton of those books at GenCon.
Yes.
And I picked one up because I played Vampire for about 10 years, the old system.
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to look at 5th edition yet to see what's different?
Only a little. I saw a stream when they were still kind of in beta, and they added in hunger dice mechanic, which every time you do something, you roll a hunger die, and you either get more hungry or
Oh,
succeed. So that's
interesting.
really interesting. And it gets rid of, in the old system, you up your stats, right? And it looks like you're rolling more dice. Well, the more dice would also be adding a success or failure, because every time you rolled a 1, that could cancel out the 10 you rolled. So you weren't necessarily giving yourself more chances to succeed. You're giving yourself just more chances to fail and succeed.
Oh,
And so it sounds like they kind of dealt with that and got rid of that
yeah. Yeah.
that
Level-
aspect of it.
That element of leveling up doesn't actually help. It just makes things more neutral.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The only real experience I had with Vampire the Masquerade was I played Bloodlines when that came out. And but that was a really good game, and it kind of got me interested. I felt like they had done more world building for that particular vampire fiction than almost any other I had seen, and I really
Mhm.
appreciated it. So it got me really interested to see what the role playing game itself was like. Yeah, it's
I did.
from '91. White Wolf still makes that, don't they? I think they still do.
Yeah, White Wolf kind of got with Modifius, and they paired up on the
Oh,
vampire book.
okay. Okay. That's probably good. Modiphius seems like they know what they're
DM
doing.
of mine still wants to run a World of Darkness game with us.
Mm, that'd be fun. That'd be
I've
fun.
never played myself. I've looked into it and I went, this is an intelligent, charismatic, sort of personal event to event thing. And I don't get to hit big things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a supernatural horror game.
It's a great setup and a lovely concept, and the whole mindset is actually amazing to be put into a game.
Mm.
It's just not mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if we were playing something like that, it would end up basically being the Monster Mash. Like or Thriller. I feel like I could do Thriller as a game, but I don't know if I could do
I mean, that's just because you're playing a bard.
That's absolutely right. That's right. Michael Jackson's character in Thriller was a bard. Let's just make that canon.
Michael Jackson is a bard. That's
Michael
the end
Jackson
result.
is yeah, exactly. Let's just put that out there. That is now canon in the Thriller verse. We have to have a cinematic universe going for all of this. It's necessary in today's day and age.
I betcha someone's still into it.
Oh yeah. Someone's already doing
Oi,
it.
not that way.
Man.
You turned me Irish. Damn.
No, I think that was whatever you were drinking earlier. Turali turned you Irish. What was it that you had? It was a blueberry.
Hag's blueberry rum.
Oh, that will turn you Irish.
It is
Or blue.
so tasty.
Yeah, one of those two things.
Oh,
Maybe you'll be both.
I'm not blue yet.
Well, give it time. The
It'll be
night's early.
I'll keep drinking. Well, I have vodka. It's a cleanse now.
Right. Oh, good. Oh, good. That will clear things right up for you now that we have vodka involved. Oh man.
I'm only halfway through it. It's fine.
Yeah.
No. Oh, wait. No, that's halfway.
I
I'm honestly surprised I'm not feeling it yet.
I had one cider. I'm good. I'm good. I think for the fact that I'm streaming, probably a good idea that I'm not having any more. Because
I need to live the
yeah.
game. It's just it feels wrong if I don't. I have a group I play video games with, and nearly every time I've played with them, I was drinking, and they're just like, "Are you trying to take this to heart? Are you an alcoholic?" I just go, "No, I'm just drunk enough to consider playing with you people."
Oh, my headphone mic fell out for a second. I don't know why. It's okay.
I was noticing a bit of choppiness in your voice.
Yeah, that was probably the reason.
That's
I stopped talking for
probably
5
because of
seconds.
the shake.
I stopped talking for 5 seconds, and that's what happens.
Yeah,
That's
just earlier. I think you said I heard you say meat goes right for it, and I was like, "What do you mean meat goes right? Oh, the hide. Oh, dog meat. Okay,
Yeah, that too.
pieced it together."
Both of those things are correct. I'm going to just say that's also canon.
That nope, not extrapolating.
No, don't bother. Don't bother extrapolating. It's too late in the day to be extrapolating too much. But at any rate, so DC Gen Con was good, I take, and Maze Arcana was absolutely awesome, I am sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and just meeting people I only ever met online. That was big for me, and meeting more of the cast members of the Maze Arcana group.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
I mean, my interactions with the Arcanites have been that it's a really interactive group, and so it's nice to know that everybody finally got to kind of like meet up in person, has the opportunity at some of these events to really do that.
Yeah, to look at Maze Arcana because I am really not in the loop. I've only recently become a real fan of tabletops, going outside of stuff. Okay, no, I recognize these people. Got it.
There you go.
It took a second. It took a second. I was like, I don't know who these. I know who these people are.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I'm a community mod for them, so
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. Even
I'm learning so much today.
yeah, even if you don't necessarily know the name Maze Arcana, you will recognize a lot of the people that are involved with it.
Literally, I scrolled into it and I saw a screenshot and I went, "Oh, okay, got it."
Yeah, I recognize these people instantaneously. Yes, they do a lot of live plays, and they have very popular Twitch streams that they do, and they have very active community around there. So we were very happy to be able to talk to Satine Phoenix and Rudy Rutenberg on the show. And
Oh yeah, I remember that episode.
yes, Maze Arcana is their baby. That's what they do. That's like where their creative energy goes into. And yeah, great to talk to them.
It's really interesting to see how, like, this sort of the tabletop RPG community, mainly with fifth edition D&D, but just in general, has been able to turn games into a sort of public show. Like anyone can join, anyone showing how anyone can play, and these people can have so much fun and have such character depth. And I've I finished a campaign last week that lasted 2 years, and about half the people, anyone that was over my age or around it, had pretty much played D&D before or was just hearing about it now. And anyone under my age had seen streams and followed things and had just recently been like, this is a thing I can do?
Yeah.
And they ended up joining and had some of the most emotional experiences they've ever had. And one of the most interesting things was someone telling their own story of their history with us by switching shirts repeatedly through the session. And nobody quite could confirm if he had. He was just like, yeah, this is when I first joined. This is the shirt I wore when I first joined, and this is the shirt that, like, after a while I decided to buy because you guys are fun. This is, you guys made me comfortable enough that I could actually accept who I was and come out to a group of who I was. And this is the and he's going to Toronto now, and he's going to be off and doing his thing, and we're just all really happy and supportive. It's a lovely day, and it's just interesting to see such, like, just a new generation of people who are just like, I am into D&D now. You can't stop me.
Yeah, it's interesting. This does feel like it's something that only really cropped up in the last 5 or so years, the idea of really streaming games, that it's really a performance in some ways. But I feel like if you were to tell Gygax and those guys when they originally created it that was going to be the direction it went in, I don't know if they ever planned on it being that way, but I have a feeling that they would have really appreciated it because, once upon a time it came out of wargaming, but once it really became more of a role-playing experience, I think that this is kind of like the way that a new generation can experience it, realizing that it is indeed like an actual entertainment thing. You can look at it in that regard if you want to. And I think a lot of people just didn't know that you could play that way or really considered it. And, being able to see like Critical Role and Maze Arcana and see those people really do it, it makes you think of all these new things that you didn't consider D&D as a format for once upon a time.
And
Yeah,
it's also just expanding how we consider entertainment for us and others.
Right. Right. Yeah. DC, you were saying something before
Oh,
I cut you off.
yeah, we get to see all these different ways of playing the game, like to your point of that maybe you didn't think of before, and that D&D can really be that expansive of a game.
Right.
And I think it also shows you how even if you don't play D&D, you can incorporate some of those techniques into other games that you do like, and I think it just expands your enjoyment of the game. All these streaming.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's something that really just brought it back into a mainstream. There was a long time where D&D, even to me, I could speak from the experience of being the outsider, D&D felt like a very foreign thing. It felt like a very complex thing that I really couldn't wrap my head around for the most part. But being able to see people actually play it in the way that you do on a live stream, where you realize that there is a lot of actual character development that's involved, and it's not always just rolling for stats. I think that that really brought it into a mainstream where a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is what D&D is." Now that I actually see it and I can see what people can do with it, now I want to try it too.
Yeah, I think that's really brought it like, oh, this isn't just a bunch of the original opinion of that you'd see in say the show Stranger Things. It's a bunch
Yes.
of kids in their basement saying we're fighting monsters.
Mm-hmm.
It's character development. It's stories that you get to write as a group, and
Yeah.
it's yes, there's mechanics, but it's people having fun in the way that you've always had fun in games, experiencing a world and a person as a person in a way you've never been able to.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, once upon a time, when Alex used to try and explain this to me back in the day, he'd go into a lot of the mechanics of it. And so for me, I was like, oh my God, it's a game where I have all these dice and you tell me which dice to roll all the time. I don't want to play this with you, Alex. And and,
Jesus.
and the first time we actually played, he was used to 3.5, so we played 3.5, and he wanted me to
Oh,
actually try it. He wanted me to actually try it. And so I made a ranger, and he was an elven ranger, and he was really strong. I don't know why he was so strong. And we had a group that got together for the one time we actually met. And he wanted us to just jump right into the actual meat of the game, and he put us into a crypt. So immediately I was like, well, I don't really know anything about my character, but I guess I know that I can fight things. I'm probably good at that, I guess. And so, I bisected a zombie. I was happy with that. I was like, hey, that's good. I got a little role playing thing I got to do with that, explain how I actually dispatched of this zombie. And, that all felt good, but there wasn't really much of the actual character development aspect of it. He really likes the mechanical aspect of it. And then my group never met again. So as far as I know, I don't even really remember his. I think I called him Hawk Swift Eye. I love
Jesus.
naming characters like that. I and Alex just face palmed when I told him what I wanted to call it. Like, oh, yeah, an elf, Hawk Swift Eye. Sure, Nathan. It sounded good to me. Don't give me rules
That
about how
is
to name
that is
elves.
all that matters.
Yeah.
All that matters is you enjoy the name.
Your
Yep.
elven naming strategy is out the window when it comes to me. I'm sorry. I'm not going
See,
into traditional
I
naming.
find it fun where I had a very similar starting experience. I also started with a ranger playing Pathfinder of all things.
Oh,
Played
okay.
a Gripply ranger, and I just kind of felt underwhelmed. Like, oh, I shot a thing, or hey, we finally faced the big wizard, and I missed half my shots because I rolled a 3.
Yeah.
That's less than satisfying. And low dice rolls almost ruined RPGs for me until the DM on Facebook went, he had a small group. He's like, okay, what did your characters do while they were gone? And I went, oh, this is an aspect I hadn't explored.
Yeah.
So I kind of played it up, and he rolled with it. And then since then, I've gotten more into stuff, and I eventually started running D&D games for my niece, my nephew, my sister-in-law's fiance, and I guess a second cousin-in-law now. I ran a game this last week, just that last week, introducing half of them to D&D.
Great.
That's cool.
And they were some of the most fun. They had so much fun. They nearly died. They somehow managed to cast reduce on a structure and just do all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was so much fun.
Wow, that's great. And the thing is, if you want to play it in a way that you're just combat heavy and you get into the real crunchy bits, as Alex likes to call them, the crunchy things, you can do that. You can be really crunchy. I'm really fluffy. I like the fluff part. So
that's something I like about 5e is the backgrounds. You can be a sailor and a wizard. Well, you were a sailor. Why were you a sailor? What ship were you on? And you can have your character have all these questions, and you can bring that in to your role playing. If you're not playing the pure crunchy game, and I really like that they added that in. I think that helps a lot of people new to role playing really broaden their character.
Yeah.
More than just I'm an elf cleric. Now I'm an elf cleric acolyte of this god and that type of thing.
Yeah. When I for anyone out there listening who actually follows Orbital, one of the things I did on Orbital was Gap wanted to play a game of Castles and Catalysts with 3 of the regulars from the show. And so the fun part of that was not just doing the 3 characters he had on, but they all had to have their own player characters too. And so I needed to have them have backstories. And what did Bill do? I had this one guy who was supposed to be like the CEO of like a big box store company, and he called Everything for Nothing. And he decided that he was going to be playing a character that he named a business wizard because he was like the head of a shipping company. It's totally different than himself. Like on the high seas of trade, and then he went off to study with monks to learn how to be a wizard.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hang on. Are we cross-class? Nah.
Yeah. Well, no. The question that then gets asked is, so wait, the monks taught you how to be a wizard, and Bill's response was, well, they were really good monks.
That is the best response. I'm sorry, but your character had a better response to questions than I have ever had.
Yeah, I had fun with that one because I wanted to just build a ridiculous system that didn't make a lot of sense and just change everything. Like my stats were like springy and smart and sneaky. I think were a few of them. And I had one, Moxie Havoc was she was supposed to be a character I made specifically to be, she was like an experimental poetry person, and she had created something called Sporadica for a poetry structure, and the poems make no sense, which was so much fun to write. So of course, when she had to come up with a character, she was an emo cleric, and as an emo cleric, the more depressed she was, the more effective her spellcasting was. And she would actually have to do like Sporadica poetry in order to cast a lot of her enchantments. So that was fun. There was a whole thing where her backstory was that she is the shadow of her former self, and her former self was a clay pot that used to get teased by the other clay pots. And there was just
Oh my god.
and yeah, so there's a lot to unpack with her. But that was Sundancer Moondragon, I want to say it was her character, something like that. And
Yo, that's the thing. You just gotta indulge sometimes. And
You
if
really
it
do.
means you have to take another character and metagame them indulging,
yeah,
it works.
yeah. And then the last one I had was Chad, who was supposed to be like my. Chad was an idea I had that I brought up during Halloween, but I wanted to create a character who was like almost a slasher character similar to like a Freddy or a Jason, but for the modern era, for like the millennials out there. And so he really cares more about how many people he has on social media than actually being that character. When he created a character, he decided, God, what did he call himself? A hack star. So basically, he was the tank. He had a big sword and a big shield, and he really just can't. Like, I think all he cared about was that he had 1 billion followers on Spellstagram. What's Spellstagram? It's just we came up with
Oh,
it.
that's too perfect.
It's just Spellstagram. So that was a fun episode because what I did is I just led him through the most routine, mundane thing that you would imagine. They go into a tavern. The tavern owner has rats in the basement, and he needs adventurers to clear them out. And of course, by the end of that, you realize that the rat talks and has a family that it's trying to feed. But that doesn't really stop them from getting on its bad side. Eventually, the whole thing burns down. And so they really got the true starting experience, I feel, of like a fantasy role-playing game. So I like the fact that we kind of went very very generic on that. But that was a whole lot of fun. But I kind of like the idea that if you have these characters and they are really just personalities, and then they come in and they want to create a character all of their own, what would those characters look like? And so the role-playing aspect is really what I wanted to play up when I did that episode. And I guess in many ways that ends up being the essay I have of role-playing games and my experience.
It's a good summary, I will say.
Yes, it sure is. Everything gets set on fire. When I
Also, I have one comment. It should be Insta-spell, not Spellstagram, because gram comes from Telegram.
yeah,
It's Insta-telegram.
yeah, well,
Insta-spell. Ah.
yeah,
sorry.
well, Chad was not the brightest bulb in the box. So
I'll take my linguistic complaints elsewhere.
yeah. Well, you know what? On one of the attempting plays I have coming up, I think I referred to what was it? Skyforge. I referred to Skyforge as Pantheonstagram because basically it's you play gods, but you have to get a certain number of followers so you get your perks. So like gods with followers.
I mean, everyone's playing a cleric at that point, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or
pretty
god,
much.
I guess.
Yeah. No, you get resurrected in that game and come back to life and you are all of a sudden a god. That's what happens in Skyforge. And nobody seems really like surprised you came back to life. I found that the most hilarious thing. Like, dead. Wind up in a pile of bodies. Whoop, I'm alive again. and when you meet up with the rest of the soldiers, it's like, oh, good, you're here. Yeah, I'm alive again. Oh, you know what that means? You must be a god. Oh, all right.
You know, that means you go to the front line.
You go to the front line. We got some people you need to talk to. Wait, let's go talk to some people. You need to have God training now. And you go off to God training. It was the weirdest thing ever, but I enjoyed the hell out of playing that part. Oh my goodness. most of the time you're just trying to try on like new outfits, so that's cool. It's a strange game, but you'll see that play through in a little while. Um, Now, speaking of video games, Paul, we were talking a little earlier about E3 and how I think we were right. Like, just
We
in
were,
general.
I think, except for our extreme predictions where we went, what's the least likely thing to happen?
Yeah.
And I think one of us ended up being right, if I remember correctly. It
Uh,
was terrifying. One of us went, like, I think one of us went, this indie game is going to be in a major thing, because that would never happen, and it did, but I can't remember our exact words. But for
yeah.
the most part, our sort of half hope, half realistic predictions ended up being right.
Yeah. And I remember the funniest thing was I remembered Alex was talking about how, like, Skyrim was going to come to
Yes.
like the iWatch. I think he was like, he's gonna come to the iWatch.
Actually come. So I think the best part about that entire thing is they went, haha, we get it. It came to the Amazon Echo. So funny. Wait, we actually did that. Screw you people. Not only did we make the joke about it,
but then
we fucking did it.
We did it. So you know what? Deal with it. We're Bethesda. We will
By the way, if
remarket
this is a PG-13 content, that's your only fuck. Shit.
No, it's okay. I don't think we have a rating on this thing.
I mean, technically, it's now rated R.
That's true.
I'm fucking sorry.
That's okay. Somebody will get upset, but that's okay. I'll just tell them wonderful stories about castles and catalysts, and they'll be all set.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, they'll repackage Skyrim so many times at this point. I'm not really surprised where I see it. I'm pretty sure
it's profitable, and considering that data leak we got not too long ago with the Steam achievements, I can't remember if that was actually like a leak or we just happened to they just happened to temporarily reveal data and going, well, this is clearly not a good idea. But the fact that Skyrim was the 11th most played game on Steam for a while.
Yeah.
And on one hand, that's depressing. On the other hand, hang on, let's bring up Skyrim right now. Let's go to my Steam.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition 56. Skyrim VR 2 hours. And Skyrim 638.
Yeah.
So I can't really comment, at least degradingly.
No. And I mean, I played on what did I play on? PlayStation. I think PlayStation 3. And I had 200 and something hours in it for the one character. And so, I mean, I can't fault I mean, to Bethesda's credit, obviously you want to get as much mileage as you can out of a game that you obviously spent a lot of time on to make as big as you did. I can appreciate that. But at a certain point you do say, yeah, but you could start to put some of your resources into, you know, that Elder Scrolls 6 that we got a screensaver for. That looks pretty great too. But the thing that keeps perpetuating it now, I feel, is the mod community. They're doing so much to, like, for the Worlds of Tamriel. Is that what it's called? It's they basically have mod teams that are working on Skyrim to create all the other realms of Tamriel in Skyrim. And so I think somebody had already done Cyrodiil, and the Khajiit homeworld, someone just finished that. Elsmere?
Yes.
So they have they have like mod dev teams that are just volunteer teams that are still working on doing these really large and very ambitious mods that theoretically, as long as it's still a viable property, one day will actually bring the entirety of Tamriel to life in a single game.
Well, I'm kind of excited about that because that means some group that has decided this engine's good enough, which is hard to find.
Yeah.
And they have the dedication, and I remember hearing about their team and how they had set things up and how they were still releasing stuff
Mm-hmm.
somehow. So I will admit Skyrim's probably not the best one, but if the if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like besides the fact that it's actually seems to be on time, regardless of what everyone clamoring about,
Hmm.
it's so late. It's actually kind of on time for the way Elder Scrolls games have been released.
It's true.
8 years is pretty standard.
Mm. Yep. Yep. Uh.
Uh, if it becomes compatible with old, in a sense, with Skyrim, like
Mm-hmm.
yes, your old mods can be transferred to an extent. I think Bethesda will have made the largest leap in accepting their modding community because that will mean, hey, all of a sudden, all those mods are useful. That
Yeah.
entire community investment has gone nowhere, and all of a sudden you have all these people converting their mods. It's a little work. Oh well,
Yeah.
you've got thousands of people taking their mods, bringing them into this, and now they don't have to start from scratch. They just
Mm.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really impressive. I will also share something as soon as I can pull it up. But I had seen this not too long ago, since Bethesda is really pretty friendly as far as the mod community goes. They had one for Fallout 4 that is coming out, and that's probably the most ambitious one that I've seen yet. Fallout Miami, which is pretty much like a complete new setting that a mod community has made, along with story, environments. I think there's some reused assets, but some original character models, monster models, etc. For basically to create a whole new game from the existing game. That's probably the most ambitious one that I have seen so far. But the trailer, and they actually put out a really nice trailer. The trailer is very encouraging. It's the kind of stuff that you then say, "Oh well, geez, maybe I'll
That's
have to
the
go
thing about
back to play that."
it's the beautiful thing about fans where they actually do under they spend more time understanding the universe firsthand
Mm-hmm.
than the developers do.
Yeah.
Mind you, you don't want all your developers to be fans. That's just a problem. But
Yeah.
your fans do they have spent plenty of time investing in this. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to take a little bit of credit. You need to give them a little bit of credit and understand that your hardcore fans may not be the sole voice of the audience, but they're going to be the people who promote you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's the reason why there are still some companies that are very unfriendly towards mods. Nintendo is very protective of their IPs, so they don't really like mods at all. But I think,
I'll be honest, that's a symptom of them being a Japanese company. As someone who works internationally, at this point,
mm,
it makes sense because they know exactly what can happen to their brand if
it's
they
true.
allow people to start screwing with it and approve of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mind you, for the most part, that's not very damaging to them, but because they so orient themselves to being family friendly, it could hurt.
yeah, yeah. I get that. I mean, it's been working out. Whatever Nintendo strategy has been, it's been working out real well for them. So I'm not going to fault them. They've been
Yeah.
doing pretty damn well in a crowded marketplace where they're dealing with behemoth tech companies like Sony and Microsoft. They have been holding their own very well. And so I cannot fault. I mean, they got us to buy freaking cardboard. I don't even know how they.
You need to restate that a bit. They got you to buy
I
cardboard, I
didn't
think.
buy the cardboard. I didn't buy the cardboard.
Oh, okay.
I'm
But
saying
no,
in
that
a
is
general sense. They got a
yeah,
lot of
that is
people too.
and honestly, I would have preferred that was a here's an instruction on how to cut up a cardboard box of certain dimensions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that means all of a sudden they're selling to children, grab a knife and cut something up, which doesn't work for their big brand.
Yeah.
And they're branding to moms, which is hard.
It is. But like when they talk about Nintendo's history as a company, I mean, they used to do more analog stuff. I mean, they used to make more toys that and cards. So that is actually like their heritage, their history. So I kind of understand why they keep kind of going back to those things. But the Labo felt kind of too gimmicky for me to care. I mean,
I wish they had done it as a service. Like not
Yeah.
not a not a $65 kit of cardboard,
right.
because that sold about as well as you expected. The fanboys and girls and
Yep.
thems
Yep.
flipped out,
Yep.
and everyone else went, that's cool, but I'm not paying $65 for cardboard.
No.
Had they done, hey, your Switch box, this is how you cut it up to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you imagine if they had literally, or they sold a Switch box? They sold every time you bought a Switch, it came in a box with perforated edges.
Yes.
They keep their price high. They change a manufacturing process, like add a machine to their manufacturing process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have some million number of people buying Switches because, hey, it comes with this free stupid cardboard thing, and I'm gonna do it.
Oh, that would have been such a good idea too.
The Metroid comes with one. The Legend of Zelda version comes with one.
Oh,
Nintendo, hire me.
Yeah, Nintendo. Please. Paul, this is after like a couple drinks. Just imagine, after he's done with that vodka, it is going down.
Hang on, give me a second.
Okay.
I'm almost done.
Okay. That would have been great though, because you could use the box if you had the Zelda edition. You could just figure out like, well, okay, what are you doing in Breath of the Wild? Okay, is there like fishing or something like that? Okay, so we'll make stuff that kind of like our Labo, but we'll do them for those games even in the game. Like you could do them as like the fishing mini game in the actual game when you're playing that.
Make a set of instructions for standard box sizes. Hell, look at you don't have to pay Amazon for this because technically they don't own box sizes. You can just order a bunch of various sized products from Amazon and go, well, these are the standard boxes they sell us.
Yep.
So and since most of the product is just cardboard, you can cut up into a certain size, tape, whatever, do whatever you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cardboard, Nintendo. Please stop trying that hard. I appreciate it, but please.
The funny thing, it kind of explains how I feel about Labo. If you ever watch video game Donkey, Donkey got a hold of the Labo, and the half of the video is him playing with the box that the Labo came in. Like that, like, oh my god, this is so much fun. And then like eventually he kind of goes, oh wait, there's cardboard in the box too. And then he starts like, and eventually when you see him trying to make it, it's like all just duct tape and masking tape, and it looks completely different than what it's supposed to. And
it's weird. It's like he's a cat.
Yeah. It was so entertaining. But yeah, the idea that somebody would like see the box for the Labo and think, hey, the cardboard thing, it's the box. Yeah.
Oh, I got my box thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just bat it around. Bat that little box around. Yeah. Yeah, Donkey is kind of like a cat, actually, come to think of it. I've seen enough of his videos.
That's terrifying now that I think about it, because he has that sort of off-puttingness that cats have. Like, you think the cat's an asshole, but actually it's kind of genuine. It's just really bad at making it seem like it cares.
Right.
he's playing Mario Odyssey. He seems to be a real like demeaning asshole. When in truth, he's really wanting to get good at this game, and he really appreciates this entire IP.
Yeah. Yeah.
He literally is a cat in human. Wait,
Yeah. He
is there a
is.
fucking wizard that did that? I'm gonna find that wizard.
When he was trying to like put those stars, those challenge stars up around the Mario Odyssey world, it's like,
This is not sponsored by Video Game Donkey.
No,
I swear.
no. How'd you get it there? How'd you get it there? Yeah, what's up? What's up? I got it there. Oh man.
To be fair, that was a dick move.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. Oh no, my favorite ones I think I've seen of him is where they find these absolutely terrible off-brand like fighting games. Like Stick Fighter or the one that yeah, the one that was supposed to be like Super Smash Brothers, but it had like a giant cactus that with like pants or something like that. And
Wait. Now I'm gonna literally let's have some fun. I
Okay.
need you because you're the one streaming because this makes this more entertaining.
yeah,
Please search on Google
okay.
Super Smash Bros. With the cactus with pants.
Okay. Super
Because
I'll do it down here so that people
that
might be
is
able to
what you
see.
said, yes?
Super Smash Bros with the cactus with pants.
You cut off on most of the phrase with pants, but I can see you were typing.
Yes. Well, now hopefully you're seeing it. Images for Super Smash Brothers
Pant.
with pants. Oh, not
Okay.
not
I'm
Roblox.
sorry. But the three results are Pop-Pant, Smash Wiki.
Yeah.
How come they censored? Okay. Good enough
And
for me.
Pauline.
Pauline.
Oh, Pauline.
Is she drunk, Pauline?
No. No.
Then I'm not interested.
Now, if it was just with the cactus pants, cactuar, that's what's going to come up. Of course. That's all that it is. Oh, he had mentioned what the damn game was, but it was terrible, so we don't have to go into it. It wasn't very good. But Pauline's going to appear in Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, so not as a playable
Yeah, everything is.
Wait.
Everything is.
Has that been confirmed? I mean, she will,
She's
but
not a playable character, but there is New Dunk City is going to be one of the stages.
that's good.
And
Well,
she's going to be
I'm honestly appreciating the Echo character setup.
Yeah.
Where Dark Pit, Echo. It's the same character.
Yeah.
Stop. We're gonna stop pretending.
Yeah.
All these dark versions are the same character.
Right.
Just used as a format to reflect upon your morality and decision.
Yeah. And now there's Dark Samus too. So you can have Dark Samus. So enjoy that. And Simon Belmont.
When they add Dark Clippy, I'm in.
Clippy! Now, see, that would be an IP merger that I cannot wait to see.
Well, the problem is Microsoft will allow it, even though Microsoft would love to get rid of the aspect of Clippy.
Yeah, Nintendo should just buy the rights to Clippy. Just
Put him in Smash Bros.
Put it in Smash
His
Bros.
ultimate is freezing the entire game.
Yeah.
It looks like you were trying to win a battle here. Can I help with
Can I
that?
help it? And then you
Or
have
do
to
you want to die?
all of a sudden a cursor comes on screen. You have to try and get it over to Clippy so you can click on the little box or something. Yeah. And that's
And
that's
all
his
the
finishing
other
move.
players have to control it together.
Yes, that's his finishing move. Is just like freezing
If
the
you
action.
don't do it in time,
Oh, I'm sorry. The match is over.
again, Nintendo, hire us.
Yeah, this is perfect, Nintendo. I mean, yeah, you were so happy to like tell us that like King K and you know
King K. Rule, excuse you.
King K Donkey Kong. Oh, King K. Rule is going to be King K Ducky,
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. No, every time I think about it, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much right.
That's all I know is that
Yeah.
crocodile for.
I yeah, Simon Belmont and Richter and a whole bunch of other characters I knew that they brought out. Trying to think. I used to play Marth all the time, and I probably would again, but I don't know.
I don't know. I might be getting a Switch because my wife wants one.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to indulge her because I get the new Zelda that way.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I kind of want to get a Switch because I'll have a Zelda and I will have a Mario, and I know I'm going to eventually have a Metroid, and really that's the trifecta for me.
To be fair, it's the first system in the last 3 where you could say, I know I'm gonna have a Metroid.
Yeah, and
The other ones, you might have.
you might have, and it was kind of hit or miss on the last one.
We don't.
But you know what? I believe Retro is back to doing, like, it's supposed to be another Prime. So it's like, okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Not Other M. Oh my
Other
goodness.
was a business management nightmare, and I'm really glad I got to see like a story of what happened because my brain went, you let the guy who made Boobs Volleyball make your female-driven game, and
Yes.
it looks, but it's not
Yes.
that. It wasn't supposed to be that.
No.
It's just the team that was supposed to handle it
Yeah.
flop and put up a fit, and this is Nintendo, and they're very stubborn.
Yep.
So they went, well, Team Ninja,
Go
your
for
turn.
it.
'Cause-
Yeah.
yeah.
Go for it, because that's gonna work out real well. Yeah.
Well, with the amount of money they already put into it, it was all they had.
It just, yeah. I just
Should have pulled out anyways.
Yeah. Other M for me was like, I cannot consider it canon for Metroid because Samus was done a disservice for her character in that game, so much so. Oh, I can't use my rocket launcher because the dude that I used to work for but don't work for anymore didn't want me to. It's like,
Sorry, I have
come
daddy
on.
issues, and this is the closest I have to fatherly approval. Wait, what?
It's like I don't. You're independent contractor, basically. You don't have to listen
Literally,
to
an
anybody.
independent contractor. You have been signed into this business.
You are a bounty hunter now. You don't work for anybody. If they tell you you shouldn't use a thing, you don't have to listen to them anymore. That's why you don't
wish
work
the
for them.
contractors I hired had that kind of loyalty.
Yes, I know. My God. Oh my God.
That's getting a bit. We're getting a bit too real here, apparently. I blame the vodka. I'll be right back and get more rum.
That sounds fun. That's gonna improve everything.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I could have used some rum when I was playing Other M. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Oh. However, so yeah, Alex called it on the Alexa thing. So good for him. Shout out to Alex. Other things that happened during E3, we did actually see. Well, we saw a nice wallpaper for Starfield. So I know that I was not insane when I kept talking about that. So
Yeah, that was a good wallpaper.
it was a nice wallpaper. It really was. It felt interactive. It had nice graphics, a nice clean design. Still have absolutely no freaking idea what the game is, but you know, at least we have that for us.
Yeah. I think that was the most excited I've seen people for a Starfield in a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that it conjures up. Although we have no idea what is necessarily happening with the game, I think what people are expecting, and so now I feel like Bethesda kind of has to deliver that. I imagine that it's what they were planning on, is something akin to the Fallout or Elder Scrolls model, but in space. And because they did talk about it as being a very large open world RPG. So theoretically, that's what they're. I don't know if that means that it's all in ships or if there's planets or what, but I am very interested to see what they do with it. And it's very exciting that they finally. It's been a really long time since they had an original IP, and and this looks like a really cool direction for them to go in. So I'm hoping that we get more information, but we didn't really even get all that much for 76. I mean,
and there was new information for 76 released today too. I didn't get a chance to look at it yet. Have you seen any of it?
Oh, I don't think I have, but you know what? I better. I will actually look it up right now.
Because there was BlizzCon and Todd Howard released some
Okay.
tales there.
Yeah. What is this? This is from Variety. Okay. Something is interesting here. Because I knew that they were going to be talking a lot more about their properties when they got well, because they were going to talk about Doom. I know that, but let's see. Fallout 76 turns griefers into wanted murderers and interesting content. New details about player progression and creatively dealing with antagonists. Oh, that'll go over well. I'm guessing so. All right. So what I'm taking away from this is that if you're griefing in the game, you're going to become like most wanted in the game. Like they're gonna figure out how to do that. Team showcase the new player progression system. As before, you'll have 7 special attributes. Well, duh, for your player, including endurance and charisma. And then there are several perks that you can equip that bring in unique abilities. Hundreds of perk cards are available, more to unlock over time. Players able to carry more as they level up. Swap cards out. Okay, swap cards in and out to shift gear a bit. Oh, so that's a little bit like Fallout Shelter, I guess, because there are cards in that. But you don't switch them out. Oh, while the charisma attribute could help a player manipulate computer-controlled characters in past games, that doesn't work in a multiplayer setting. Finding a new direction was a very interesting discussion amongst the team. Now, in Fallout 76, charisma has more of a team-centric focus with abilities that help allies or even benefit you when working with teammates. Okay. So basically, it's the buff stat. I buff my players. Yeah, I love the buff stat. So that's what charisma is now.
Oh,
in 76.
I found 21 things that we learned today about Fallout.
We learned 21
I'd like to make a slight correction. Apparently, it is not Hag's
Kotaku
Blueberry
article.
Road, it is Sea Hag. My apologies.
Oh, that's a very important thing to note. T-Hag.
21? Sea Hag.
Sea Hag.
S-E-A.
Oh, that makes even
I'll see if I can
more
find a Google.
sense. Okay, yeah, if you find a Google, make sure to drop it into the chat so that I can regale myself with it. 21 things we learned about Fallout 76 today. What we learned is that there's no NPCs. No, I already knew that. I already knew that. Perks are...
I will become an NPC.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Every NPC is just a PC. Like, that's what we need. In Fallout 76, perks are represented through perk cards. You earn them every time you level up. Earn perk card packs solely through leveling up. Every other level up to 10, and every 5 levels after. Okay. Brought to you by Vault-Tec American. Today's episode, Being a Better You. Oh, there's another little infomercial. That's always good.
Yay! Don't we all love infomercials? I'm sorry.
Don't we all love the little Fallout commercial things they do?
I mean, the commercials are fun, but
there's a lot of them.
It's an infomercial.
Yes.
Eventually, you get tired.
There's a lot of them. Like, I remember when they did Fallout 4, they had one for every single stat. They did 7 separate, like, little video pieces for
How
that.
many of you follow Dan Bull, the YouTube rapper?
I do not know that person.
I'm unfamiliar.
So he has a lovely video for Fallout. I think it was before Fallout 4 got released. He made a video about being special.
Oh.
AKA, he did what's the term? Alliterative rap about the various stats.
Oh.
So each stat had its alliterative verse, and it was very unique. It was very interesting, and it was really fun to watch and listen.
Mm. Yeah.
Because he's someone who's he's one of those YouTube gamer rappers who really, really likes the lore of something. So he goes, "All right, let's delve a little bit."
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of fun things that you can do with special too. Now, have you ever seen Nakey Jakey?
I highly recommend. What? Nick?
Nakey Jakey. Nakey Jakey is on YouTube. He does a lot of video game. Some of those videos he does are, I laughed. I literally did an LOL. The one that he just did about bad video game voices is pretty hilarious. But one of the things he does is he does rap reviews. So when he has a new game, he actually makes a rap song out of that content to explain how he felt about the game. And he did one that I thought was pretty darn good about No Man's Sky.
Oh no.
He did one about No Man's Sky. Not from like when it originally came out, like last year. Not now. But it would kind of be interesting if you went back and looked at it again with Next. I still don't know if I'm ever going to play that damn game.
To be honest, that's necessary to not be a bit too. If you want a good hindsight episode, you need to be a bit separated from. If you want a very straightforward episode of something, you need to be a bit separated from the time period where most of the opinions came forth.
Yeah. I can get that. I guess the thing that made me a little disheartened when it came to like No Man's Sky, and actually in many ways like Sea of Thieves and all of those, is it really is feeling like here's the tech demo, folks. Hope you enjoyed paying full price for it. One day it will be the game we promised you. And it's like, I remember a time when we would get a video game and it would just be the game. And you knew that you were paying for the game as it was. And there's so many things now with like, day one patches so that they can get the discs printed sooner, and with game previews and early releases and betas, where they're kind of trying to put the game out before the game's really done. And I feel like No Man's Sky was a real example of that people hung their hat on.
The one reason I am almost okay with day one patches, I'm not, but it's a situation where your user count is so high, you never would have experienced this in testing.
Yeah.
But that's in my opinion, it should be these 3 things can break the game for you, but it's only because these people who aren't going to pay us to invest in the game early went in. That's fine. That's normal. that just happens because not all your fans have the money to introduce themselves that early. But with this number of people, someone introduces this game breaking thing. Hey, my save got corrupted because I picked up this rock one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they send in a bug report that's valid.
Yep.
And has good acceptance criteria.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
A day one patch because you just bought the game and they figured out 6 things in between the time of releasing it and people downloading it. I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. And something I noticed too, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything for the end user, but I think that it does mean a lot when it comes to how we perceive games, is the review copies you're sending out to outlets don't have that day one patch. And so when they're reviewing it with all of the bugs. And I've even heard some outlets that are going, they say that there's probably going to be a day one patch, so these bugs might not be in there. But really, for you watching it, as far as you're concerned, that's the game. If there's like game ending bugs in it, as far as you're concerned, that's the product that you're going to get. You don't know what the day one patch is going to be. So as far as the reviews go and, people who get it early to actually look at it and tell you what they think, their reviews are going to be skewed by the fact that we didn't actually play test it as much as we should have. And so, I mean, I'm glad that they actually do the work to fix those, but I don't know.
So, and I feel the problem though, because I work in I'm a software engineer. I feel this exact thing. Like, my company actually has recently demanded from on high that when we pull out a new version of the software, we're going to be the first to adapt it publicly, physically, and the hope is everyone sees us using it before it actually gets released. Of course, that's not what happens because it doesn't get released quite. It doesn't get released until it's ready, and sometimes it gets ready right at its release date. But personal vendettas aside, the problem becomes you have your QA testers, you have your testers who are used to testing.
Yeah.
Unless you got someone who has no idea how to use the system or has an exact 3-point experience on how they use the system, aka they're a social, they're an explorer, they're a killer, or they're a killer, they're an explorer, they're an,
yeah,
you play all 4 archetypes, and you go through all the stages of what happens if I try to climb up this mountain by jumping.
Yeah.
What happens when I try to kill 16 people in it? Can I kill 16 people in the safe zone? Can I spam across the map, try to get gold out of people?
Yeah.
Those people who are maliciously using these mindset. It's hard to get everyone, but you need a plan for that. And on one hand, I understand it. It's hard to get everything, but on the other hand, if something game breaking happens within your engine when you release, you may have fucked up a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's something like if you step on this pot for 30 seconds, move backwards 3 squares, select this specific action because you were this specific race and you had access to this specific skill, you teleport 300 feet away and are suddenly in Ganondorf's lair, because that's how speedruns work.
Right.
Whatever. But if you stood on a pot for 30 seconds, the game glitches when the first time you move and sends you 600 feet in the air.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more concerning.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you have people sticking around or walking away, coming back and going, "Why did I die?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I switched from Zelda to Skyrim there, and I apologize.
Well, there was a Zelda outfit in Skyrim they put on the Switch, so I guess that was the version you were talking about. Oh, I'm also realizing Sea Hag is from Main Spirits, so I might actually be able to find that somewhere. Yeah, no, to your point. I feel like, when you have there's a lot of people, especially when you have fanboys, and they will, and I always love that term. That's just a terrific term, fanboys. But if you're an early adopter, sometimes you're just willing to accept that. But I usually come into these things, down the road once they've been out for a little while, because I figure that if there is any major problems with the system, they will probably patch it later. And, so if I don't play it right away, I've kind of gotten conditioned to the point where I'm like, well, the game probably wasn't finished anyway, so I'll just wait for a while. I don't have to get it day one. But I don't know if that really changes the market for most gamers. I don't know.
It amazes me what doesn't actually influence the market in the end. The ending's terrible, or
Yeah.
there's this many this. It's like people complain about all these things, but it doesn't influence sales.
Yeah, and actually the thing that really shocked me was when we were talking about Battlefront 2. And there was so much visceral hatred thrown at Battlefront 2. And
Pretty justified in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got a chance to actually play it myself, and yeah, everything they're talking about is warranted. There's a lot of glitches. There's a lot of bugs. The microtransactions are real. The loot boxes are real. The game is not particularly well designed. But when you actually look at sales for Battlefront 2, yes, they were lower than they expected. But when you realize that it's still like 9 million copies sold, it's not like we were projecting we would get 12. But like the first, still 9 million copies sold of a game is nothing to, turn your nose up at. That's still pretty impressive, regardless of what your press was. So, yeah, I mean, 12 million copies sold would have been great, but, even after
And
all
obviously
of that.
EA wanted to, oh wow, that's a significant loss in expected profit. Still profitable.
Yeah, yeah. And people were still going to buy the loot boxes. So, the microtransactions still made them a lot of money. So, and I feel like that's why EA's response back is kind of, half-hearted in a lot of ways when they were talking about, the new games and, oh, you're going to love Anthem. We don't have any loot boxes. And it's like, oh, gee, thanks, EA.
Thanks, you didn't give us cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
We'll really thank you for not being terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute.
How did we? It is fascinating when you see a company that's like they made a really big mistake that had really negative customer service impact, and then they bring out a product and they don't do that, and they're like waiting for a thank you from everybody. Like, you're welcome. That the thing we did that was terrible, we're not doing in one game. We're still going to be doing it in the other games, but there's this one game we're not going to do it in that. And in so many ways, I think they're going for games for services at this point too. So that's going to be fascinating. I get to pay like a price every month for my game now.
The problem becomes is it's so effective and profitable.
They make so
and
much
really,
money.
if you can get your game to last 3 years, you've made a profit.
I think the thing that is so scary for a lot of people, especially me, is when you realize how much money the mobile market makes. A free-to-play game rakes in so much cash, and you just sit there and are stunned by it. I mean, people, it's funny because, like, so I was talking to about Pokemon Go with somebody the other day, and she's like, yeah, like 2 years ago when that was like a game people played, and and I was like, I decided I was gonna be sassy back, and I was like, that app still makes $2 million a day, right? Like,
Jeez,
like,
you're fucking kidding me.
nope. Pokemon Go
Oh
still
god.
makes $2 million a day on that app. So it's not so. Despite everyone's like, oh yeah, user base really dropped off. Yeah, they're still making a shit ton of money off of that app, which is why they're still supporting it. Um, and Fortnite as a free game goes to mobile and is now making a ton of money on mobile too. So it it is one of those weird things where that since that's where the money is, that is where the market is going to go. And it's scary when you're used to things like great single player experiences. But the single player experience doesn't make as much money anymore, so less developers are making those games and are really edging for more of multiplayer experiences or battle royale modes or anything like that. And if you don't like those kinds of games, I'm wondering what's really going to be around in the next 5 years or so for you. Pretty much what Bethesda came out with. I think that's pretty much it. Pretty much what Nintendo and Bethesda came out with in the future is pretty much, and anybody who has just made a commitment to making single player games. But everybody else, I feel, is going to jump ship. EA will be the first one to just let the veil go and say, no, it's just all multiplayer now. Just all multiplayer death matches. You enjoy. And that's a scary thing. I don't know how everybody else feels, but for me, I'm a bit nervous.
I don't think multiplayer is going to overtake Mark. I think multiplayer has dominated the market for a long time and will continue to do so because the people who are not generally gamers and involve themselves in games are people who are recruited and brought in based on social aspects. Your buddy plays this, your mom wants to play this, your this, that, and the other thing that plays. That's how they gain their expansion, and this is how the video game market expands beyond things.
Yeah. Yeah.
If big, the problem becomes big studios working on being able to work on single player.
Yeah.
I think it's a ways away, but it's as close as like 5 years down the road. Single player is not profitable versus
Yeah.
tomorrow single players still get pretty profitable.
Okay. So my estimates might be a little off.
They might be a little off, but I also remember. Let's see, I'm 24 right now, so I remember playing Modern Warfare 2. People making the same prediction.
Right.
I don't think single player is going to go away. I think what's going to happen is single player with increased distribution is going to become less. What's the term in data management? Less trackable, less manageable, and less ostensibly profitable,
Okay.
but will still exist within a very strong market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess wherever there, as long as a single player game and a rich single player experience still has some sort of market, there will still be somebody to fill that, I suppose. I don't know if it's going to be as much from the AAA studios anymore.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
definitely
got it.
a lot more indie games will
yeah, yeah,
do
and
that because they just can't support large player bases.
yeah, and the nice thing is for me is I think the indie game studios have gotten way better than I remember indie games in the past, and I've been super impressed with a lot of their efforts now. The one I had just done a video on it not too long ago, but Ghost of a Tale, which is practically done by one guy, Seath, practically made the game by himself with a small team underneath him for some additional assets, And that game looks terrific and is very unique and is completely a first player, a single player experience. Um, I had even mentioned in that like Subnautica was done by a pretty small team, and that game's really expansive. And
Yeah, I'm really liking Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Not very far into it, but that's a fascinating way for a game to go. Just
oh,
spreading a story out
I don't
as you
know that
travel. Increase. Oh, it's a great little concept, and I really love the. You basically travel and you constantly add to a story, and all these different stories, and you tell this story to these other people, and so you're constantly growing this and changing it.
Ooh,
And
that is interesting. I gotta look that up. You said where the water tastes like wine.
yes,
I will look that up because I want to see it with my own eyeballs.
Well, you're right.
Oh.
Balls of fine. Well,
A bleak American folk tale. See, already interested. That has
there are
like a
not
lot of
enough that are played from a sort of mystical American perspective, and I'm so excited that Fallout 76 is going to try to play towards the sort of um this sort of old school American cryptid ideal.
Yeah, yeah. That part really interested me because the whole mythos of like West Virginia. Well, initially, the second I saw that, I was like, well, the McElroys are going to be in heaven. Um,
Well, their tweets
yeah,
were great.
yeah.
Don't you do this to me, Bethesda. Don't you do this.
I was like, well, we found all three of your game of the year right now. You don't even have to play it.
Gross.
Oh, man.
The McElroys are screwed, but the benefit is we get to watch as the McElroys break down and try their hardest to give us an honest review.
Yeah, that is about it. I started to think about it too. Is like their campaign on Adventure Zone is basically Fallout 76 because they're
Hold the fuck up.
yeah.
Damn you! Never noticed that.
That's what immediately I thought to myself, wait a second. I think I think this is the Amnesty storyline, but in a video game form. Did anybody realize that? I don't know.
Not until just fucking now.
Because is basically that is what the storyline of Amnesty is. It's cryptids in West Virginia, and and Monster of the Week. So I was like, well, gee, I don't know if like Bethesda was just like we just want to make Griffin go crazy or not, or I don't know. But yeah, that was the parallel that I drew right away. Um, I like the art style for Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Just the initial part of that looks really interesting. Um, the images that I'm seeing right now, DC, is the game pretty much like that, like the art style.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, very nice, very nice.
You start off and you're cursed with this huge body, and to break the curse, you have to go around to these different places and collect these stories.
Mm. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's like a game where the goal is to actually keep adding to a mythos. Sort of like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Very interesting. You don't usually see games that actually focus like on the actual storytelling where storytelling is the goal. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's very interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll have to look at that. I've been very impressed with a lot of indie games now. Once upon a time, people got really interested in pixel art, and so for a
Once
little
upon
while,
a time.
once upon a time, yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, never. That doesn't happen no more. Clearly,
No, although
that's not a normal thing.
I'm guilty. I've played like 120 hours in Stardew Valley, so I'm sorry.
It's fair.
I'll give them that.
I'm honestly just waiting for one of my friends. Actually, not my friends. I'm waiting for my wife to get involved in Stardew Valley
Yes.
because she is going to get hooked, and we all know it, but
Hmm.
she doesn't know enough about video games to know that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, because you have
I'm
multiplayer
excited.
now. You have
Yep.
multiplayer. Yeah.
So at some point she's gonna go, Paul, you should play with me, and I'm not gonna spend $60 on, but I do know a group of individuals who play it, and I'm gonna shift it towards some of my other various people I know from the internet, and I'm gonna be safe, and it's gonna be fun, and I'm probably gonna lose money overall. But hey,
Yeah.
my wife's happy, so I don't care.
Right. Exactly. Oh my God. Eric Barone is
Yeah,
a
sometimes I don't play
genius.
games because I'm like, I'll probably be addicted to this for a while, and Stardew Valley looks like one I would spend a whole lot of time
It is hard not to. It is
in.
hard not to. I can't even explain. It's most of the people that I actually hear about. I think actually Angry talked about it because he started getting into it for a while. He realized that it wasn't so much that he was playing the game; he was just addicted to the game. Um, because there gets to be a point where the story kind of ends. The actual titular story ends, but you're still playing because it's like, oh God, I gotta get starfruit crop going, and oh, I gotta get to the lower level of the mine. How far down into the into the desert ruins can I go? I need to find out what's going on. How
Yeah,
many?
I mean,
How many?
I just remember how addicted I was to Animal Crossing on the GameCube, and
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
this.
this is very similar to. It's very similar to Harvest Moon.
Oh no,
But
that's a dangerous, dangerous line to cross.
yeah, well, I mean, he was inspired by Harvest Moon when he developed that game, but it really felt a lot more because there's combat aspects. It felt more like Rune Factory, which was I believe developed by the same people as Harvest Moon. Because in Rune Factory, you build a farm, but you are also going through caves and battling monsters for resources. Um, but yeah, no, Stardew Valley, the seasons change, and then your crops change when the seasons change, and you have to get. Uh, and I had to figure out just how many kegs I could just put out so I could just make endless bottles of ancient fruit wine. I needed to make as much ancient fruit wine as possible. Get my greenhouse going so I can just make a bunch of ancient fruit plants and grow them all year long. Yeah, that's that was a lot of my life that I won't get back. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Everything's good. The one that I want to play now that's actually released, it was in early access once upon a time, but We Happy Few, I can't. I talked to a couple people about it, and they were like, "What game?" And I had to explain to them the weird concept We Happy Few has. It's from Compulsion, and they did a game called Contrast once upon a time. Interesting idea for a platformer where you were three-dimensional, but you could also turn into a shadow, and your shadow moved in the shadows of the game world around you. It was interesting. Um, but We Happy Few is just such a bonkers idea for a game that I had to appreciate it on that level. Sure, 1960s alternate history in London where World War II did not go the way we thought it would go, and now you're addicted to a pill that makes you see the world in much happier colors than it actually is. Now you have to try and escape your oppressors and try to make them believe that you're still on joy, which is the psychotropic drug, and while trying to escape from this magical land. Yeah, sounds like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Um, but like just the art style and everything was just so unique. And again, that was a really small team that actually worked on that game. If I can find it, I will pull it up because I'm sure I can somewhere. And I played it briefly back when it was in game preview. And it is now an actual full release title because I think Gearbox picked it up for an actual pressing. So let's see here. I will put it right here in my happy little box. That might actually do something. I don't know. We Happy Few. It's fun because it's got the bobbies with like the little face masks on it. It's fun that way. I'll put it in here too so people can see it. But that's a very interesting idea. A game of paranoia and survival in a drugged out dystopian English city. Enjoy. If that doesn't sell you right there, I don't know what will. So yeah, I think like that's a single player experience, obviously. I think that those smaller studios are still producing games that now look like AAA titles. And can do it with less resources, smaller staffs, and can do it as passion projects, and can still get, hopefully, the same exposure. It's hard to say. Where the water tastes like wine. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I had not heard about that game. So, anyway. So single player is not going to go away. Paul told me that that's true, and so I have to believe you.
Shoot, I thought I accidentally muted myself. I don't
Oh.
think it'll go away. It shouldn't because of the number of people that it applies to, but it may lose its focus in the way that first-person shooters did for an extended period.
Right. Yeah. Shooters are a tricky one because I think they lend themselves really well to multiplayer. So, you know, sometimes the single player experience isn't a focus for them anyway. I like having a single player campaign, even if it is a multiplayer focused game. For those of us who don't really want to play the multiplayer. Of course, then I tried Battlefront 2's, and I realized, well, that doesn't always work so well. Because that was not great as a single player campaign. Like I don't. Yeah, buggy experience.
That, I'll be honest, that kind of surprises me. I thought EA would be more professional in their trying to rip me off.
Yeah, no. If my very first attempting to play video was of Battlefront 2, and it was actually the reason why I started doing those videos, was because I needed to record this. There's weird moments I had where my character just started floating up into the sky. I don't know why, but I was just above the tree line and I couldn't go anywhere, do anything. I mean, I could still fire my gun and everything, but like I obviously couldn't move, and I felt like I was ascending into heaven at that point. And then I reloaded my save, and then I was just like doing a jackhammer action into the ground and still couldn't move. So reloaded like again, floated up to the sky again. And eventually it was like, you know what? We're going to just quit the game and then reload the whole game. And then it was fine.
Hey, yay, resetting.
Yeah, just reset the whole thing. It's just, there was some weird stuff in it besides that. Like, I started to realize that Aiden Versio is a fine enough character, but if you wanted to, the little drone that she keeps around is so much more effective than actually trying to shoot the opponents. I had this whole thing where like I'm trying to like, shoot around stuff, and then I started to realize, okay, well if I take cover, I wait for my drone's shock move to to power up, and then just send it off into a field of soldiers. He like just shocks like 3 or 4 troops unconscious immediately. So that's much more effective. I don't really have to do much of anything if I don't want to. I had some fun parts where you start to realize, since you're playing as the Empire at the beginning, I was firing at one of the stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers are vulnerable at that point because you can't kill them and all. And I'm like, wow, this is why the rebels had such a hard time. The stormtroopers are now invincible. There's nothing you can do. And then, later in the game you can. Like when you turn onto the rebel side, because of course you were going to, then the stormtroopers are really easy to kill. But it's just weird stuff like that. They obviously were not highly invested in single player, and I guess it's because it's a multiplayer series, but I've played enough games where, you can have both. You can have a really nice multiplayer experience, but also have a really solid single-player campaign. There's no rule that says you can't. Splinter Cell did it.
There's financial developments that goes, this is this.
Yeah.
And it's all bullshit because financial decisions change, and you need to examine more of what the market says beyond just what people paid for what you marketed for.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah. I am currently going back over, maybe just because I was like, well, Shadow of the Tomb Raider's coming out soon. No, they were on sale. The new Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider, I'm going back over those. And those had multiplayer experiences you could have, but I mean, the single player was the focus. And you forget that they actually did such a really good job on those. Some of it might have been IDOS or Square Enix, but I feel like Crystal Dynamics has a lot to do with that because they've been such a solid studio in the past. But they understood the value of a single-player experience. You can have a multiplayer in there, and that will sustain a lot of players for a long period of time, but making the single-player exceptional will draw people in regardless of whether they want to play online or they want to play off. And so I'm looking forward to Shadow of the Tomb Raider because I think that they'll keep that going and close out the trilogy in a nice way, but I'm not sure. I haven't played it yet. I've seen some video footage, but games like that or Red Dead Redemption 2 make me feel like, at least there's a glimmer of hope that single player games will still be good and I will still enjoy them, and I don't have to freak out too much that maybe even once in a while a AAA studio will give me something that it feels like it was meant for me to play and not me to be a participant in with a bunch of other people. But
It is late. I must depart for the sake of the wife. This is not a demand. This is a husband going, it's probably smart for me to do this.
it probably is smart for you to do this. It's probably
Have
also...
a good night.
All right.
I was drunk Paul.
Good night.
You were drunk Paul. You are drunk Paul. The legend
Always and forever.
The legend continues.
And I bow and I leave.
Oh. Oh. He lives up to his name, though.
Yeah.
Every time. It's pretty great. it does not appear that Dom is going to join us. I thought that he might. I was kind of hoping that he would give us a little bit of an update on some of the stuff that he was doing over at Nine Dragons, which is unfortunate. And Alex hasn't shown up in Interactive, which is also unfortunate because I know that he had a whole thing where he was going to go watch the Perseeds, assuming that he could see them. Because it's kind of during storm weather. I don't really, like, he lost power already, so I don't really know if that's going to work. But anyway. So, before we head out, though, DC, you had mentioned that you're playing a new campaign, a D&D campaign?
Oh, the campaign I'm in, I'm a warlock, half-elf tailor, and on your D&D episode, you were talking about warlocks.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was talking
The other
about
day.
warlocks. Yes, I remember that one. And I started to realize warlocks sound cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's again where I'm leaning into the background of the character. I'm present myself as a tailor, not as a warlock or a half-elf. It's more interesting to me to be a stuck-up tailor than these other things that I happen to be as well. I'm
Yeah.
constantly casting prestidigitation to clean myself, to keep my clothes looking nice, because that's my brand, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You gotta
So
look
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, when Alex was talking to me about warlocks, he was mostly mentioning, oh god, what is it? It's a cantrip. It's a really great spell, and I can't remember what it's called.
Eldritch Blast.
Ah, yes,
The
that.
that's kind of your go-to damage spell, and it's a
Okay.
cantrip.
Oh, all right. Okay. Uh,
Or
is that
like I
really
use
useful?
that and prestidigitation a lot. So
Okay. Prestidigitation, that's a cantrip too, isn't it?
yes,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. I know that much. I feel a little bit better. I know this too. So, okay. That's good. Not really knowing much about it, but, cantrips always felt appealing to me. I could just cast them as much as I want, just whenever for whatever
yeah,
reason. Like that.
yeah. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with it. Like prestidigitation is a whole bunch of little spells tied into one spell. You know, lighting a fire, cleaning your clothes. What I use it for on my warlock.
Mm-hmm.
Creating smells and everything, and
Yeah.
cantrips give you a lot of variety, and if you run out of spell slots, you don't feel useless like in other editions where it's like, oh, I'm out of spell slots, so now I have my staff that might do 4 damage to a thing, you know?
Right. Right. That was something I got really wary of when Alex was kind of like leading me through 3.5 and I was looking at earlier editions. Was it's like spellcasters seem like they're cool, but there's going to be a point where you run out of steam and you really lose all ability to do anything
Yeah.
at all. So maybe I'll just stick with the guy that smacks stuff. Because my sword will never run out of spell slots.
Right.
I have endless sword slots to deal with. Just let me have that. Yeah. So I'm glad that they did cantrips. So that at least makes it feel like if I'm spellcaster, I'm always going to be able to do something. The neat thing too with like when I was looking at my bardic skills too, is there's some really neat things that you can use for story development in those cantrips
Mm-hmm.
too. And so, like just from a storytelling perspective, just being able to have those available to kind of like just augment your natural abilities. It just feels really cool that you're able to do that. You keep feeling like you're a magical being, that you have
Yeah.
these things you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, have you been able to actually, as a tailor in the game, have you been able to actually make any clothing or
I haven't had the chance yet in the campaign because we're constantly running and stuff, and we haven't had an opportunity to stop. And I tried to get a job in a town, but they told me they were all filled up because I don't think my DM wanted me to do it there. So then I hated that town because they rejected my potential employment, and yeah.
Right.
So now I just go around bad mouthing that town because
Oh, perfect. Well, that's
yeah.
that's more of a bardic thing. It's a bardic thing. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, I think if I get into a point where I can play a warlock, I might give that a try. Just to spam
Yeah.
Eldritch Blast.
I mean, yeah, Eldritch Blast, some people will say it's overpowered. I'm like, it's no different than a warrior spamming his longsword.
Yeah.
It does a lot of damage, but it's kind of your go-to, and you get a lot of other neat tricks as a warlock too.
Oh
There are
yeah.
spell effects. You get there's a game term for it, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it at the moment. I'll look it up. That's what I'll do. But
Okay.
your patron grants you certain powers, right? And so it's like
Oh.
being able to see through magical darkness and things like that. So you may not have a lot of spell
Oh.
slots, but you also have these other abilities, like you can read Eldritch Invocations. That's what they're called.
Eldritch
Uh,
Invocations. Okay.
you can read any language, and at different levels, you get to pick one or two, and they're just sort of little tricks that you can do. And as you go
That's
up in level, you can get more powerful ones. But
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
yeah, it feels like some of the other classes have that too. Like, thieves have like a kind of a bag of tricks. A bard.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bard. They even told me like all the stuff that I had in my backpack as a bard, and I realized I didn't really even use much of it effectively.
Yeah.
But like just like decks of cards and weighted dice and stuff, and I'm like, boy, I had so many more options than I even realized. Um, yeah, I like the idea that character classes are not just this is what you can do in a fight. You really have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of options when it comes to either storytelling or out of combat experiences, anything like that. It also I feel like that helps a lot with murder hoboing too.
Yeah.
You don't get into as Alex loves to talk about the murder hobos. Your party doesn't have to resort to that all the time if you continually talk to them about other things that your characters can do that don't revolve around just hitting something with a sword. You have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other options for that. So now,
And again, I keep going back to backgrounds, but I think they give you those kind of help with those other options.
yeah.
Whether you're an entertainer or a folk hero, or it gives you more options to talk about and bring up in NPC conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just spend a minute thinking about why were you this thing before, and don't treat it as, oh, this is just a thing that grants me some starting gold and an extra thing. Think about it for why were you this, and why
Right.
did you leave that, and are you still it?
Yeah. 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 That feels like I'm glad that they're doing that now. I feel like, especially my first little kind of like dipping my toes in the water for role playing games, it didn't feel like I really understood why my character even ended up in this situation. Like,
Hmm.
what was the point for me? Like, how did I get here? Why did what am I? Oh, I'm just I'm just a wandering dude that ended up in this crypt, and now I've got to kill some things. Oh, somebody gave me a quest. Why'd they give me a quest? Why did they think I was capable of doing this? Why was I looking for a quest? We didn't ask these questions. You just did
Right.
it.
Yeah, and sometimes you are in an adventure that's like, okay, we have a limited time to play. We're just going to play. We don't.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the type of game you're in,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and sometimes that's just fine too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can explore with the character in maybe a different game that isn't that way.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. See, for me, the actual character development seems like the most interesting thing because
Hmm.
that's like actually building something that goes beyond the confines of the game itself. You're building something unique outside of the setting, outside of the mechanical part of it, and building something that's really unique for you. So that really interested me a lot, and so now that feels like it's more of a focus for role playing games, D&D in particular, I feel like I'm more comfortable being able to do more with it, because I had a lot of fun kind of playing that aspect up when I did the one shot. So one day, if I'm a rainbow unicorn, I will be able to just embrace that and go with it. Um, Speaking of which, you had actually, when I talked about rainbow unicorns, you had talked a little bit about what I could choose for a background for a snowball.
Hmm.
Do you remember what you said about, I can't remember what the background was that you
No. Oh,
suggested.
I do. Let me. I have D&D Beyond open, so I can just
Oh, you
look this stuff up. Uh, it was City Watch Investigator from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
Oh, okay. Yes, the investigator thing. Yes, that is
Yes.
perfect for him. That is a good thing. I I had talked about it. I'm always just I feel like sometimes I'm just trolling our guests at this point because I keep bringing up Snowball. Like they think I'm just playing with them. It's like, no, this is like a
No.
legitimate thing that I really care about. But I was really interested in like when James D'Amato and I were talking about it,
Hmm.
and he was kind of like going, okay, so let's just figure out like, okay, where did you come from? Maybe you have a nemesis. What would your nemesis be like? And kind of fleshing that out. And that's when I started to kind of like realize, oh, okay, so maybe Snowball didn't even leave the police department. Maybe it was more or less that he was forced out of the police department, and that is more motivating for him in some ways. Um, and why did he want to become an investigator? He read all these detective stories when he was younger, and he realized that if Sherlock Hooves is able to do this, he surely can. So I'm going to
Right.
go off to the big city. I'm going to be an actual investigator. I love mysteries, and I'm going to solve mysteries myself. And so being able to flesh that out, I feel, is just much more interesting than than just saying, okay, well now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my horn attack because I'm a unicorn,
Right.
and I'm gonna
Yeah.
stab him in the face. And like that's it's nice, but it's nice for me. For everybody else, it's not all that interesting. It's like, oh, you made a rainbow unicorn, and now all he does is stab things with his horn. It's the I hit things with a sword, but with a
Hmm.
unicorn, it's just stabbing things with your horn. So I feel like, especially in an interactive medium like role playing games, and especially with something that's such a team effort, being able to do something far more interesting and expand the character, it's just better for everybody. They can all kind of enjoy that more. So,
Yeah, and that's sort of what attracted me to World of Darkness in the first place. Was that even in this new fifth edition, they have you get to page 133 before you get to character building. Everything else
oh,
is background lore and figuring out who you are. And uh, World of Darkness has always sort of put that into their books,
mm,
and that really helped me develop characters for other role playing games I did, and expand my thought on this. And so when fifth edition added D&D added backgrounds, I was like, this is great. I think these are great for new players because now you kind of get a sense of who am I beyond these couple things.
right, right. So, okay, so World of Darkness is so Vampire the Masquerade is part of World of Darkness.
Yeah, werewolf and mage were the other two,
Okay. Um,
the big titles. There were
right.
some other titles in there. I think
There's a
Changeling was
bunch of
one.
other
But
yeah, I'm looking at
yeah.
the Wikipedia here. There's Mage, Wraith, Changeling, Hunter, Mummy, Demon, and
Hmm.
Orpheus. Orpheus was another one, and then they did some that were Dark Age, but those were for those were for the Fae or the Changeling, the Inquisitor, which is like the Hunter, Mage, Werewolf, and Vampire, but that's 13th century Middle Ages setting.
Yeah, I only played Vampire and Werewolf.
Yeah. I think that those, I mean, I think Vampire is probably the one that people are most familiar with.
Mhm.
I remember werewolves were around in Vampire the Masquerade. At least there was that one point. Well, I should say in the Bloodlines game, there is a point where you as a vampire are trying to outrun or outlast a werewolf until your train arrives. And so you're going through a house trying to avoid the werewolf because the
Oh,
werewolf is
wow.
far too powerful for you. Oh, that was a very intense thing for me. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically this one very small setting where you have this yard, and it's like in a graveyard or out in a, was it a graveyard? No, maybe it wasn't. But it had like an exterior area, and then it was like this 3-level mansion. You know that your train is going to arrive in like 7 minutes. Until that time, you have to basically try to keep this giant white werewolf at bay, because the chances of you actually killing it are very low. You technically could. I think I had heard you can actually slay the werewolf or trick the werewolf into getting killed. But the most likely scenario is you're going to just have to keep running away from it and keep denying it access to you until your train arrives. I was not successful at killing it, so I just had to wait out the clock until I could get out
Mhm.
of there. But what I took away from that is, boy, werewolves seem overpowered in the Vampire Masquerade lore. They are really dangerous. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my takeaway. But I didn't know that they necessarily. So when you're looking at like werewolf, does it have like similar character creation to Vampire the Masquerade, but with a werewolf?
They it was the same setup for the book. I mean, it was 100 some pages of lore, and then you sort of had gifts instead of disciplines, and so it was similar in a sense. Just things were named different, and werewolves were had a much more connection to the spirit world than vampires did. Where vampires, that was kind of broken for them, and
Okay.
they had some interaction to it, but not quite like the werewolves. So you also had two very different perspectives on the world of darkness coming at you too.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I kept thinking about like the number of different like gothic fictions where vampires and werewolves just hate each other so much, and Vampire the Masquerade was one of them that I was thinking of, and then I started to realize, isn't that like every single setting? Like the second they introduce a vampire and a werewolf, they're never friends.
No.
They're never getting along. In Underworld, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in Twilight, even in Twilight, it's just there's no scenario. I have not seen a single one where werewolves and vampires get. Oh, actually, I think Mom is watching Being Human right now, and there is a vampire and a werewolf that are trying to get along.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that
Being Human is great, and yes.
yeah.
But yeah, you kind of miss out on the vampire and werewolf buddy comedies, you know?
You really do. You really do, because they come from these different worlds, and these worlds don't really agree very much. Even oh, even What We Do in the Shadows talked about that. They they which, if you've never seen it, it's a really funny movie that Taika Waititi did.
Okay.
And he's actually the guy who directed Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he's from New Zealand, and he works with like a few of those more well-known comedians from that area, and they were all in this. But it was like this mockumentary. It was like a faux documentary about this house of vampires and what their life was like being vampires. And there's this whole part where like they stumble across a group of these werewolves in the middle of the woods, and they have like this kind of like pissing contest in the middle of the thing. Somebody's dead and they're like, what did you do? And I think by the very end, because they're talking like, we don't talk to werewolves, they're weird, we don't like them. By the end, there's this whole thing where they're having a party, and they're like, "Who invited the werewolves?" They're like, "I'm sorry, we got along. They're not bad dudes. We like to." Fine, fine, they could come over, but don't let them see Carl or whoever the really ancient vampire who looks like a Nosferatu. Don't let them see him, because the second they do, like, I think Carl dies. It's a really strange, it's a funny movie, but yeah, like, what's party planning like when you want to bring your friend over from work? What's it like? So, when are we turning him into a vampire? No, he's just a friend of mine. He's just a friend. We don't have to turn him into a vampire. I might have turned him into a vampire. No, don't do that. It's a fun little. But even in that, vampires and werewolves just will not get along to save their life. Now, when it comes to Worlds of Darkness, and I'm looking at like Mage and Wraith, like, how do those factor into that conflict?
I don't know their overall story of how they do that. They, other than they manipulate different aspects of the World of Darkness.
Okay.
Like everyone touches on a different aspect of the World of Darkness, and no one has the complete picture. If the couple factions could get along, they could see the entire picture of their world, but they are kind of cut off from each other in various ways.
Oh, okay. So when I'm like when I'm playing like a vampire guy and masquerading, right?
Right.
I'm typically not interacting a lot with the other kind of character. Like, I'm not typically interacting with the werewolves and the mages and those things.
Right. You would be interacting with other vampires more than anything else.
Right.
And werewolves protected, oh man, what was it called? I think they felt responsible for the veil, and that was sort of the supernatural curtain that protected us from all the supernatural things just coming into our world.
Right.
And stuff like that. I mean, it may not have been called the veil. It's been a long time, but and so they deal with that, where vampires are greedy, and this stuff could happen and totally wreck their world, but they don't care because that's not their focus.
Right.
Right? They are sort of running the industries, trying to control mortals, trying to control all these things and gain power and just keep living and surviving. And they don't see this other part that the werewolves deal with and protect, and yet they also fight each other when they're also different parts of the World of Darkness. They have different realizations of the world.
Yeah.
And they just don't really know it, and they can't know it because of their differences.
Yeah. I'll have to dig into World of Darkness at some point. And maybe even have somebody from that oeuvre on the show, or at least ask somebody from that who's worked on Fifth. I think he had actually mentioned somebody who had worked on the 5th edition, who might be good for the show. So I'll have to try and get in touch with some people.
Yeah, you want me to post his Twitter?
Yes, please. Was it Jason Carl?
Yeah, Jason Carl. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm really interested in what they did. When I was thank you very much. When I was in and playing Bloodlines, besides the fact that I like the game and I like the story, the other thing that I really enjoyed was I thought that the system was very interesting, and how they did stats was very interesting, and the different concepts that they had. I like the fact that if you play a Nosferatu, your game is completely different than if you play literally any other class, because you
Right. Yeah.
cannot interact with it. Actually, I was watching a thing. What was I watching? It was I want to say it was outside Xbox, and they were doing times that you inadvertently ended up in a hard mode, put the game on a hard mode. And one that they mentioned was in Bloodlines. If you choose to be a Nosferatu, you inadvertently make the game way harder than it is with any other class, because you no longer can actually interact with NPCs. You can't go through the streets. You have to go through sewers. You have to basically eat rats. You can't do most of the things that other character classes can do. And but
Yeah.
I love the fact that they made that a thing. I love that
Yeah,
it's
because
still a
in the
thing.
role playing game, Nosferatu had this vampires have disciplines, and one of them is obfuscate. And Nosferatu could use that because he can disguise yourself. So I look more human than I actually do. But then there's always the threat of, well, can someone drop this disguise, or will I, vamp out on somebody and my disguise is blown, and suddenly everyone sees that, or I'm trying to protect my face and not look like this monster in a social
Right.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really interesting concept. Yeah, I really like the idea of the setting, and I guess it's just something that I have not had a lot of exposure to. It's even something that when we have some of the regulars on the show, like Alex is not very familiar with it either. So a lot of my touchstones when it comes to the show are not in and around World of Darkness. So you're probably the closest thing I have, DC,
That's
to the
fine.
person who knows anything about World of Darkness. But
Yeah, I mean, now that they're kind of changing it up with this fifth edition, I'll
fifth
have to
edition,
read up more and see how
yeah,
much I just told you lines up with.
how much it's still true.
Yeah,
But
but it looks like there's still disciplines, and most of the clans are the same
okay,
from what I knew, and
okay.
things like that. So
I'll be interested to see if Nosferatu are still the same too.
yeah, they are.
They are
I, I
okay.
I I got that far through the book that they're still Nosferatu, and they're still very, very ugly. And
Yep,
yeah,
yep, and they are definitely vampires.
yep.
Um, so good. Well, I'm glad that we at least had this time where I could pick your brain about that, because that is, it. The World of Darkness is one of those things where you know that it is one of the large. It's one of the big players in role playing games, but I don't know a lot of people that are familiar with the world, so it's kind of good to just get more familiar with that for my edification. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, yeah. Usually when people talk about things, I have a lot of people that know about Edge of Empire, and obviously I know a lot of people that know about D&D, and then it feels like World of Darkness is like the next big setting right after that. And I still don't understand Edge of Empire, so so I don't know. I know so many people that play it, but I don't understand. I'll like the problem I guess I had with Star Wars as a role playing setting is doesn't it aren't the Jedi just automatically the winners? Like when once I get a lightsaber, don't I basically just win the
Right.
game?
Yeah. Balancing Jedi is quite
Yeah.
a little trick. And I think
Yeah.
Edge of Empire does the best job of that with other classes
Yeah. Yeah.
and things like that. The other Star Wars games just you either need to be a party of all Jedi, or you have to agree to be all Jedi or not, because otherwise it seemed unbalanced in other Star Wars tabletop RPGs.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, when I was playing games based on Star Wars, like Knights of the Old Republic, you don't start out as a Jedi, you become a Jedi, and
Yeah.
so the game just it adapts itself to that because that's about character progression.
Hmm.
Um, but when they did the Old Republic, which I did not play, I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be interesting because like a scoundrel could be a class, but but then eventually I can't remember if you could start out as a Jedi or I think you could become a Jedi at some point.
You're basically Jedi in training, and then you build your lightsaber to become a full Jedi,
Okay. Yeah.
and go on from there. So
Okay.
you start off as a user of the Force, and you make your way to Jedi, or you can go dark side and
Okay.
Sith.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think when it was originally announced, I was under the impression that like Jedi was a class, and then like a smuggler or a scoundrel was like another class because they were talking
Yeah,
about
those are different classes. Yeah.
yeah, they were talking about like, well, what happens when you have a character using a blaster pistol coming up against a character that uses a lightsaber? Doesn't it feel
Hmm.
like the lightsaber's pretty much an auto win this in this token? I feel like they're like if like we all love the Han Solo, but if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo had a like actual fight, I'm pretty much sure that Luke was winning that. So I don't
Right.
know how that's gonna work in the game. But I understand
Yeah,
it's character progression.
it worked out pretty well in Old Republic. It was just
That's good.
different levels of character progression. Hey, I have a lightsaber, I have these powers, or I'm a scoundrel, so I have sneak abilities, I have grenades, and they did a fairly good job. I enjoyed playing that for a while.
That's good. I mean, I had kind of like I think it was mostly that I just didn't have it on the system that I was using, or I didn't have the system requirements, so I hadn't played it. But I was so used to like I liked the Old Republic as a setting for a single player experience. I wasn't really interested in doing the MMO part of it. Um, because I felt like it was such they did such a BioWare did such a good job at making such a nice single player personal story. They did such a good job at the storyline. I felt like having that as like an MMO kind of just would ruin that for me.
Hmm.
It wasn't a big thing, but I have a very uh, personal feeling when it comes to KOTOR. So I guess that's why I couldn't really bring myself to do it. I was always interested in it. I kind of wondered if it was any good, but I was also just like right out of WoW and like vowed after WoW that I just was not going to do MMOs ever again.
Yeah.
like like it spent enough time with WoW where it's like okay, and now I don't really want to ever play an MMO again. I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
I have a group of friends that I'll play MMOs with, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's rare. But anyone else, I just avoid them because I don't
Yeah.
want to deal with all of that.
Yeah. I mean I was in a guild with Alex back when I played and it was fine, but I started to realize that it is gonna be a grind session and I'm either spending way too much time playing it or I'm just bored stiff. Uh, like there's like not there was never a really good happy medium for me. I was either
Hmm.
so addicted to it or I had gotten like sick to my stomach because I was just playing it too much and I wanted fresh air. And I started to realize this isn't really what I signed up for in gaming. I wanted to be able to just have an enjoyable experience and just play it. And I had that at moments with WoW, but it wasn't continuous. So I put it down and never picked it back up afterward. And kind of I have flirted with MMOs past that, but it is not a lasting thing for me. I might play for a few days to see if it's any good. That's
Yeah,
the most
I
I've
really
done.
enjoyed City of Heroes, and when that closed, I was kind of sad. But that was the last sort of long-term MMO I really invested any time in because that was a lot of fun to me, and the costume creator was amazing.
Yes, yes. I did not play City of Heroes. I did try DC Universe for a little bit, and I did try Star Trek Online, and I did try Neverwinter. Probably out of those three, um, Star Trek Online, I probably spent the most time with, but it was never something I felt I couldn't just put down and never ever pick back up again. I, I was playing it because it's like, hey, I got a new ship. Like this is pretty sweet. I can fly around in my new ship, but I was um, I was never so engaged with them that I became addicted to them like I did with WoW. And probably just because after WoW, I was like, yeah, this is probably just not a genre for me. But they were fine. DC Universe is not good. I, I, will,
No.
I will tell you this. Um, I played it when it was free to play by the time I played it, but it was man, it had some problems. I had a whole thing where I was a low level character and I did a raid and I succeeded at the raid with the people that I was in it with and I was so happy. And I was completed with the raid and it told me that hey, the server's going to be going down for maintenance in 5 minutes or something like that. And the server went down and it came back up and it didn't have any of my raid progress in it. And
No.
it had only saved it like 20 minutes earlier. And so I was like,
Oh.
why did I even bother? Because then I started thinking, okay, so now if I just do something and they tell me that the server's going down, basically I might as well just shut the game off. There's no
Right.
point in playing at that point. Oh my god, I that was the point. Like I loaded that back up. I saw that like none of what I had done in the last 15 minutes counted, and I was like, uninstalling the game, never playing this again. That was fun while it lasted, but we're done now. Gorilla Grodd can run the city. I don't care anymore. Let him go for it. He'll probably do a better job. Let's just deal with it. So yeah, MMOs have been a sticking point in my side since then.
Yeah, that's why I'm to the point now of I like these little independent games like Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, or there's one, I
Yeah.
think it's This Is the Police. I'm interested in those experiences more than
Yes.
anything else, or Papers, Please is very interesting to me too. And
It's such an odd idea for a game, Papers, Please.
right.
But it is so I appreciate the fact that someone decided to make that game. I I'm just constantly happy that people are willing to take a chance on making those games that seem so obscure. Um and I'm glad for that because once in a while you get games that are truly great and sometimes just games that are a lot of fun. Um
Hmm.
the one that I am always I think I'm just waiting for it to go on sale at this point because it will give me an excuse is there's one called Moonlighter that seems like it would be right up my alley. It kind of has a little bit of a look of Stardew Valley, but it's a game where you go through like Zelda style dungeons and you collect a bunch
Okay.
of you collect a bunch of stuff from monsters and things like that and you progress through a few different dungeons and that's what you do at night. Now during the day you run a shop, an adventurer's shop, and the stuff that you got in the dungeons you can put out for sale in your shop and you set the prices for them to try and
Oh,
get
neat.
the townspeople to buy them, and you interact with the NPCs in town and stuff. So, like, you're a businessman, and at night, you're also like a badass adventure character. And I'm like, this is a perfect thing. I get to have my own store and battle monster. And then, of course, what you do is that you get people to buy your stuff, and that gives you the money so that you can buy better equipment to go through the dungeons so that you get better stuff to sell. And so I find that whole concept just so engaging, and I was
Yeah.
like, I kind of really want to play that now. It just
Well, now I do too.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Because there's so few games where you get to like just have a shop and
yeah.
just enjoy your shop. But this one was like, yeah, go for it. You set your own prices, see if they work. Did you set it too low? Maybe you can get more for it. I'm like, oh, there's haggling involved. Now I want this so much. But yeah, Moonlighter was kind of in the style of Stardew Valley, but it was a little different. There were so many that came up in like right after Stardew that were very similar, but that seemed very unique in its approach. I Somebody had also told me that there was a version. Oh God, what was it? It was like the dark. Oh God, what was it called? It was like Stardew Valley, but it was like the dark version of it, and it was called. God, I'm not gonna remember what it's called. Uh, Corpse Harvest or something like that. It's like you're in a graveyard and you are like a grave digger, and there's like it's kind of like a zombie game. It's a really strange one. There's so many weird ones that came up afterward. It's like, hey, you like Stardew Valley, but you're a goth. Well, congratulations, we got a game for you too. Um, it was really really strange. I wish I could tell you which one it was. I'm not gonna find it. It was oh, I could look it up by the person that played it. That was dangerously funny. Yeah. It was not Stardew. Has lost his mind.
Graveyard Keeper.
Yes, that would be it. Thank you. Graveyard Keeper. Yeah, Graveyard Keeper is a strange game. That was a really weird one. And there was another one that was really similar. Well, there were a bunch that were really similar, I should say. Graveyard Keeper is better than Stardew Valley. Yeah, you're gonna... Sorry, Paste Magazine. I'm going to have words with you on that. I don't necessarily believe you on that. Oh, Terraria was similar to that. That's true. Starbound was similar to that. Oh, God. There were so many. Oh, Slime Rancher. I liked Slime Rancher. That was a good game. That was super fun. If anyone out there has ever played, wanted a fun little game, Slime Rancher is a really fun game. It's a cute game where you get to raise slimes in little pens and collect their plorts, which are basically kind of like, well, I'm going to say eggs, and sell them for profit. But you get to explore a magical land with all these fun little slimes. It's pretty fun. I don't know why, but it is really enjoyable. And for the same reason I like Stardew Valley, because at a certain point it's like an industrial simulation. I don't know why. It's just so much fun. I start an industry with my slime ranch. I don't understand. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Moonlighter. Interesting title. Still haven't played it, but will surely do that. And I have heard that not Concerned Ape, but Chucklefish, who had put out Stardew Valley, is actually creating a very similar game to it, but in more of a Harry Potter vein. So there's going to be
Okay.
like a magic school. It's going to be more focused on that. So kind of interested in that. Oh, actually, since I'm here, I could just look up Chucklefish. Oh, and Starbound was theirs too. That's right. And Starbound was kind of similar to it as well. Yeah, they have some really interesting things that they've been putting out. Wargroove, that's cool. So people are kind of interested in that, but that is neither here nor there. But I forgot. Oh, I should follow Chucklefish. Now I'm just finding people to follow on Twitter. Chucklefish, I need to follow. I need Concerned Ape. I have to. Now, when Concerned Ape actually gets around to making a new game, that'll be good. He's the actual, that would actually be Eric Barone, so he's the one that actually made Stardew Valley. But it's still very, very impressive that one man by himself made an entire game, and that it is,
Right.
it is, from the music to the graphics to the coding, he did the whole thing, and it's 130 hours of goodness to enjoy. But you're right, DC. Don't start if you're worried about getting addicted, because it will be the next few months of your life. It will be the 8-bit equivalent of Skyrim, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
It kind of is. Yeah. So there's quite a few games I feel that are really, really great games, but you probably want to avoid if you are worried that it's going to be a time sink, because it absolutely will be. And usually Bethesda titles are those ways, but Stardew is definitely in that ilk. So that's something.
Yeah. I'm running 4 games at a local gaming convention in September, so I probably should prepare for those more than play Stardew Valley or something. Giving players a table experience that they signed up for
that would be a good idea.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah. That's in Toronto, you said?
No, it's here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
It's called GrandCon.
GrandCon. Ooh,
Yep.
Fun. September. Oh, yeah, it's coming right up. You don't have that much time.
Yeah.
4 whole game. So is it the same? Do you need to create like one campaign that you run 4 different times, or are there 4 different separate campaigns?
I have 2 Open Legend games that I'm doing. I made
Beautiful.
1-shots in those, and 2 Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition games that I'm running.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Excellent.
I'll plug myself in the Discord.
Plug yourself right away. Tabletop.events. Perfect.
That's my schedule of games, and that'll lead you to the
Okay.
GrandCon site.
Oh, okay. GrandCon Gaming Convention. Excellent. Grand Rapids. Excellent. Have you been to that before? To GrandCon?
Yeah, it's been going about 4 years or so now.
4 years.
Yeah, it's not, super huge, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah, because I was kind of wondering, what kind of turnout they get in that area of in your neck of the woods.
yeah, we have a local Grand Rapids Comic Con too, and their Grand Con tends to be a little smaller than that
Okay.
too.
Okay.
So kind of your normal city Comic Con size thing, and just kind of shrink that down a bit and kind of get a Grand Con style.
Okay.
A rough estimate.
Oh, that's not bad though. I mean,
No.
it sounds like it's a good time for everybody involved. Yeah, the thing that we're doing in September, I think we're doing in September is, as I was talking a couple of years ago, we went to Boston Festival of Independent Games, and it is coming back in late September, and we have already gotten, we've already gotten our media passes for it, so if we decide to go, we already have admission.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, like, once you're on the media list, they pretty much just, like, they say, here you go. You want to come, you're in. So and it's a good time. We met a lot of really great people there, a lot of great designers that we got to talk to directly. Um, it's a really great time. I think it's just a matter of making sure that our schedules work out that way, and being able to actually go. I think Alex was gonna be like, oh yeah, we could probably do it in one day. And I was like, oh man, that's gonna be fun because that's Boston. So yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be rough.
it's gonna be rough because like the last time we did it, we actually just stayed down there for the 2 days. So we
Hmm.
basically we went down on Friday, stayed overnight. Saturday was the con, and then we left on Sunday morning. So being able to do that, that one day, you just get to focus on that, and you just get to rest before and after. If we did it, if we did it all in one day, I have to get up at like 4 in the morning so I can get to the train on time, and then
Oh,
I gotta get back on the train, and I get home around like 10 at night. I'm like, oh, I don't know how awake I'm going to be during the actual convention. I probably won't be. I don't know if I could do that. I could kind of consider just doing like Friday night so I get over there and just take a late bus home. It's not bad, but that's real early to get on a train in the day.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
looking at their map, and wow, to
Mm.
you would really have to plan hard for if you're just doing one day. That's
Well, yeah, they only really like if I actually I think I can find Beefig right here. Damn you, Boston Festival of Indie Games. Thank you. Um, if they only do it on Saturday, so if you
okay. It's only one day.
yeah, it's a 1 day good good luck. It's kind
Yeah.
of what it's kind of what Beefig
I
is.
see.
This is the day, and try to get to everything. It's tricky.
Yeah.
I had to plug my camera in to power my battery like twice during that time because I was running it
Oh,
so
wow.
often. And I think I used up 1.5 of my memory cards and that was just doing like 3-minute interviews with people. But I ended up with like 40 something interviews before the end of the day. And that was like going down the line, and Alex and I were just like going down the line, introducing ourselves. Hey, would it be cool if we took a video? And they were like, yeah, cool, let's do that. And so but yeah, that was so many things that we had to do that day.
Oh.
We didn't take breaks for anything. That was like 8-9 hours or so on the floor. We didn't eat. I didn't use a
Hmm.
bathroom. I didn't do anything. I was just go,
Oh.
go, go. I cannot stop. I need to get as much as I can in because, and got to actually sit down and play some of the games too, which was pretty great. We got to actually play, what did we play? Complicated, uh, oh god, what was it called? Complicated board game, the card game, or the tile game. But anyway, complicated, which we had those guys on the show, and then being able to actually sit down with them and play the game was really cool. We also had, God, now I'm not gonna remember people's names. But he had made Avalanche, and he was one of the first guests that we had on the show, and we got to see one of the new games that he was making, and meet him in person. So, getting to see some people that we actually did know, and then a bunch of people that we were really happy we got to meet, and then later had on the show was pretty great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it really was. So many of the ones that we ended up having on over the next couple months were just people that we met while we were there. In fact, we only found out about 10 Candles and met Stephen. I think Stephen Dewey, if I remember correctly, because he was at BFIG. And so being able to actually talk to them, and before 10 Candles became like a thing, that was
Okay.
this,
Yeah, I've seen 10 Candles played. I'm like, that's intense and
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And to actually talk to him directly, well, like meet him in person and then talk to him on the podcast about tension in gaming was really interesting. But we got to see that, and Alex picked it up because it really interested him. But we got to really see that before it became like the critical darling that it became, because now you see
Hmm.
every outlet imaginable, from like Hyper to Geek and Sundry, playing that game and just making a point to talk about it. It's great to see those things happen. Um, before they became famous, they came on Delve
Yeah,
once
nice.
upon a time. Um, and we only knew about that because of BFIG, so we're really hoping to be able to get down there again. Whether we stay overnight or not is going to be tricky. But we'll see about that. Anyway, our intention is to go. We do have our tickets already. They issued them to us without a background check. I guess they decided we were worthwhile. Because so we have media badges there for us. It's just a matter of getting there in a timely fashion. So that's going to be late September. Look forward to that. That's my big announcement. So September is a great month for gaming because you got the Grand Con. So,
Hmm.
so DC's doing the Grand Con, and you got the BFIG up our way, which is like an us thing. And maybe other people from the New England area that we know from the show will come to that too. We're hopefully they will. Cambridge is such a nice town, so it's great to be to be there. It's a great walking town if you've ever gone. Um, it's like a lot of brickwork parks that you can just walk through, and they have just some art installations that are out there just for you to just
Oh,
enjoy
that's
while
cool.
yeah, just while you're, because it's a college town. Uh it's actually it's pretty upscale. It's pretty quiet still, and it has a lot of nice old buildings to it. But yeah, I on Sunday morning, I got up. I was like, I'm a little hungry. I went down. I just walked the street until I found a cafe. I went into this nice local cafe. I had a very nice French toast and a nice cup of coffee. And I got a what they called a chider, which is actually like cider, but they put the chai bag in the thing and they steep it, so it's like almost mulled cider. It's very good. And then I went to just stroll through the parks that they have there in the early morning hours, and I was like, see, this I could get used to. This I could get used to. I'm not big on cities, but I'm good with this. This is what I'd prefer. Yeah, really, really nice town. If you have to be in the Boston area, Cambridge is like a really nice area to get lost in. Um, so hopefully that will all work out. Anywho, I think we have talked uh, everything to death. Uh, which is
Yeah.
which is why we have now gotten to Graveyard Keeper. Uh, I think is how that really works. So it's probably a good time to end. In case anybody still wants to go and see the Perseid meteor shower. I don't know if Alex did, but I'm sure he will tell us if he did. He can't see anything. There's no way you can see it tonight. Not in New Hampshire. Sorry, folks. You're up this way. Good luck. It's cloudy, it's overcast, and there's rain. Good luck seeing anything about a shower. Tomorrow night, maybe. Not tonight. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up. I want to thank Drunk Paul, of course, one more time. Thank you, Drunk Paul. And as always, I want to thank DC Lasair. DC, thank you for coming by and
Thank
hanging
you.
out. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for hanging out, keeping me company, and making me feel like I'm not just talking to a brick wall, which is what I feel like most of the time, but not tonight. And thank you, everyone, of course, for listening to Delve Live whenever you actually see this. If you saw it live, great. If you saw it later, that's great too. And if you saw it on the podcast feed, that's also good. But regardless of that, hopefully we will see you again. And now I'm rambling, and I'm aware that I'm rambling, but I can't stop. There's no way I can. It's impossible. I'm going to just stop streaming now. Good night, everybody.